October 2021 Landmarks meeting here. I'm Jason Friedman, the chair, and we got a good group here today. So if, let's get started with number one, whoever that is, get their screen going and let's start presenting. And I'll write the resolution. So I'll open up.
We have representatives tonight for the New York Stock Exchange proposal. We have Sarah Locklear and John Brockelman. For some reason, Sarah, I'm unable to share presenter roles to you, so I would ask if John is able to be the presenter or not. If that's okay, I can also share the deck as well from my end.
If you could share the deck from your end, I don't have it if Sarah can't connect there.
Jennifer, I'm
I
sorry,
still don't
are
have
we
the
going out
ability
of
to
order?
share.
Are we changing the order?
No, we're not. We're going through the order of the agenda. So the first item is for the New York Stock Exchange application for permit renewal of Fearless Girl statue.
Thank you.
Sarah, your presenter now actually. It worked
great.
out great.
Yeah, great. I see share working now. Just give me 1 second to get the presentation up. Thank you.
Well, I can get started while Sarah brings the presentation up. So we want to thank you all for having us on your agenda tonight. My name is John Brockelman. I head up marketing for State Street Global Advisors, and I'm joined tonight by my colleague Sarah Locklear, who heads up brand and has been leading our Fearless Girl campaign for the last several years. And we're here tonight to seek a permit extension for Fearless Girl's current location at the New York Stock Exchange and on Broad Street. Just to give you a little background on State Street Global Advisors, we are the 4th largest asset manager in the world. We work with institutions globally to help millions of people save for retirement. We work with endowments and foundations to help them invest in things like environmental and scientific breakthroughs. And we work with financial advisors who help people invest their life savings. So just to step back a little bit and rewind the tape a little bit to 2017 and how Fearless Girl came to be. We as an asset manager had been looking at a variety of different studies that had shown that companies that have a higher percentage of women in senior leadership, and in particular at the board level, tended to outperform. But regardless of that fact, we had seen, in particular in the US, 1 out of every 4 public companies still had all male boards. And so we were prepared as one of the largest shareholders out there to issue guidance to those companies we invest in, saying that we expected them to take action to create greater diversity, in particular on their boards. Because previously these studies had not gotten a ton of attention and scant press coverage. And so we had created Fearless Girl to help draw broader attention to this issue, and originally had placed her at Bowling Green opposite Charging Bull. Now, we were hoping that Fearless Girl would get some attention to this campaign we were prepared to launch. We certainly were not expecting to have 1 billion impressions on Twitter alone in the first 12 hours. And to give you a sense of the campaign at the time, we originally only had a permit for Fearless Girl at Bowling Green for 7 days. But obviously the overwhelming response from the public worldwide and in New York was a desire to keep Fearless Girl in New York City. Just to share with you, we're now 4 years into our Fearless Girl campaign, and looking at the companies that we had identified. Over 1,500 companies at the time did not have a single woman on their board. And as a result of this campaign, 4+ years later, 862 companies have now added at least 1 female director. There's certainly more to do, but this campaign is definitely drawn attention to this issue, and it's had a big impact, and we've been proud to be part of it. So I'm going to hand things to Sarah to get into the particulars, in particular regarding Fearless Girl's move from Bowling Green to her current location at the New York Stock Exchange. So Sarah, maybe you could take it from here.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, John. As John was saying, we were really blown away with the response that we received to Fearless Girl. There was actually a change.org petition created by the public to try to keep her in New York City. So we worked really closely with the mayor's office and other city agencies and organizations to try to find a home for her. And in December 2018, we reinstalled Fearless Girl in her current location, shown here, opposite the New York Stock Exchange on Broad Street. And again, this relocation was really met with overwhelmingly positive media and public attention. So on this next slide, just so we're all clear about where we're talking about, this shows where Fearless Girl is placed, right across from that kind of iconic facade of the Stock Exchange building. And again, on this slide, we are showing the street plan view of her current placement. We also wanted to show a few photos of how the street looked before Fearless Girl was placed on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you can see, where she is located and how she fits into the current street view. So when we were considering her reinstallation in 2018, we wanted to be really thoughtful about the space and her placement. So we wanted to make sure that the location was somewhere that was pedestrian friendly. So Broad Street was really a great option because it's a wide street and there's no vehicle traffic. So it's definitely a safe place to have people come by and look at the statue. We were also very careful about where we placed her on the street. So she's far enough away from the curb to allow for accessibility, and she's also far enough away from the New York Stock Exchange fence, so emergency vehicles are still able to pass through if needed. We're very committed to her cleaning and maintenance. We have a crew that comes in once or twice a month to work on the statue and keep that up. And we continue to have a great relationship with the Stock Exchange, really kind of across our business, but specifically with Fearless Girl, we often partner with the Stock Exchange on our gender diversity on corporate boards campaigns. They're a really great partner and thought leader in this space as well. And we feel that our placement across from the Stock Exchange just sends a really important and inspirational message. We wanted to include some information here about a approved seating plan project. So this actually is not an initiative that has anything to do with State Street, but our LPC contact, Gina Winter, suggested that we included this here for reference, really. But you may recall in late 2019, early 2020, this was presented to you to create some seating that would actually frame Fearless Girl on Broad Street. So again, this isn't an initiative that we are working on or we're even aware of, but we have learned from Dina that no work has begun on this yet, but you have seen some other initiatives to do with Fearless Girl somewhat recently. It also really, as a reference, we wanted to include the technical drawings from the original installation in 2018. We worked very carefully to make sure she had a really secure and stable platform on the street. And at this time, we're not asking for or recommending any additional work be done to the statue and her placement. But again, this is really just for reference of what was done a few years ago when she was originally placed on Broad Street. So with that, John, I'll pass it back to you just to talk more about our ask today and why we're here.
Sure, I think it's fairly straightforward. We intend to continue to lead this campaign and continue to make an impact on boards across the globe. We think the Fearless Girl campaign has been critically important in helping us get real results from that perspective. And our specific ask is in bold there, that the statue will stay in place. As Sarah just mentioned, we're not seeking to do any additional paving or alterations at this time. And we're really asking for your approval to keep the statue in place for as long as possible, so we don't have to keep doing kind of on a yearly basis extensions each year, which we have been doing for the last several years.
Thank you both. I guess I'll start with a couple questions. What was the thought when it was originally placed there in terms of it being done, without any sort of permitting? Were you guys involved? Was it done with the anchoring that we see there now, and was it just placed on top? Like, can you just tell us a little bit more about that? And then also, you say you'd like it to stay in place for as long as possible. What kind of direction are you getting from Landmarks as to the law of how long your permit could be? What kind of permit are we talking about here? Is this like a certificate of appropriateness or a letter of some sort of, some other type of thing? Those are my questions. And then I guess everybody else should go.
Sure, maybe I could cover a couple of them, and maybe Sarah, I could go to you on kind of the anchoring, and we could go back to that image. She has been under a permit since she's been there for the last 4+ years. When she was originally installed at Bowling Green, it was considered a street permit, and that was something that was done through the DOT. And then we were able to work with the DOT through their arts program to extend her stay. We've essentially exhausted those permit extensions for the time being, and so this is why we have to undertake this process to come to this board, as well as work with the LPC to keep her for a more permanent time period. Sarah, I don't know if you can speak to, I think there was a lot of care that was put into the actual placement, specifically the cobblestones, and making sure that those were in place and that she fit in with the street. But maybe Sarah, you could hit a few of those.
Yeah. I mean, John said it pretty clearly here, but we did work with a mason and made sure that the statue was very securely placed on the street itself. And again, as we said, we're not looking to change any of the way that she's placed in her current location. I did want to answer part of your question though about what we were asking for within this meeting today. So our LPC contact recommended that we come and ask for more permanency in her location here. So we're looking for your approval to keep her here as long as is possible from your end, just so we don't have to come back and get these annual renewals. That's how she directed us to come to this group and speak to you all tonight. Happy to answer any other questions on that.
Who agrees to maintain the statue, like as long as it's there?
We have agreements in place to maintain the statue. As I mentioned, we do have a cleaning and maintenance crew that comes, but the statue is something that we are committed to maintaining.
Okay. All right. So whoever wants to speak from the committee, go ahead now.
Yeah, Jason, I have one question. So who's spearheading the bench relocation and the additional, are there additional benches being put in? Is that what I'm understanding?
If that question is directed at us, we are actually not involved in that project, so we really couldn't speak to the details of it. But maybe if I'm not sure if there's anyone on from the LPC. I'm not sure if Dina's on. She could probably give you more information about that.
Well, we've supported the
we're
bench.
not involved in that.
Yeah, we
Jennifer
supported
said,
that bench.
You dial in. She has a phone. She sees a cell number, or are you trying to go in via?
I'm coming up to RV and it says the host is rejected.
Oh, Roger would know who's putting
Coming up as
forward
RV? You
the
dial
bench proposal, Gerald, maybe. Just, I know we supported that when it came to us
Right, so
generally.
you're not on the phone.
And I think that you guys
No,
said
no,
it
I
wasn't
know.
built yet. Is that right? Does everyone know that? I don't
Yes,
know.
it's not built. I
All right,
walked
so-
by there today, just before coming to the meeting. It's not, there, nothing's in place. They haven't done anything.
Okay, So maybe Roger will help us answer that question, Gerald, when he jumps on. Any other questions, concerns?
No,
No, you love it?
I like it. I think it's fine. They do a good job. People love to come by it. I think it's better than at Bowling Green, and I'm all for it. The end.
It's a good
And I
campaign.
will say here, this is Liz. I completely agree. I think it's fabulous. Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public here about this item?
Jason, there is a member, Todd Fine, who wishes to speak on this.
Todd, fine. I know Todd, right. Let's hear what he has to say if everyone's done from the committee.
Yes, hello, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. First thing I would like to mention that it was announced recently that State Street is leaving New York City. So they're not exactly the best host of this statue. They've, I guess, removed a lot of jobs from the city. They've exited their headquarters from the city. But I'd like to point out that if they, throughout their presentation, they keep talking about this as a campaign. And it's very revealing that they talk about this as an advertising campaign and not as public art in New York City. They want to, what they're saying, make an advertising campaign permanent, on a permanent basis. I don't think there's ever a precedent for a permanent advertising campaign on city streets in dialogue with a historic building that's the landmark. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but this is a very important step. I think it needs to be treated with a lot more scrutiny and review. And we don't want our city, I don't think we want New York City to become, the streets of New York City to become permanent places of advertisements for corporations. It's an evolution beyond the bid model where it's just a management to an actual repurposing of the public space for private gain as billboard, and it's a very worrisome precedent, and it should not be made permanent. The year review I think is much more appropriate because we really need to scrutinize the political implications more seriously. Additionally, it is not a public art. It's really not a statue. It is a gimmick, and it is part of New York City's continued devolution into gimmickry and attractions as being a public space rather than serious artworks that go through a public design process, which is actually the process that is intended for public arts. And the illustration of it being a gimmick is one way is to show that is that they continually put things like clothing. They recently put the Salvation Army on clothing on Fearless Girl, or glass around Fearless Girl. They don't treat it as if it's actual a monument that deserves permanent authorization in the city. They treat it as an advertising corporate landscape for them to do what they will. Additionally, I think it needs to be reviewed by the Design Commission at some point as a permanent place of art. You know, we're already seeing how that has had other issues if it's not allowed in other places. There's no reason to just totally disrespect that existing procedure for public art. And even if we like it, I mean, I could tell some of the members of the committee like the artwork, think it should remain. There's a process for that. So there's really no reason to pass a resolution to discourage them from doing that process, especially if it goes on indefinitely. There's got to be a threshold, and at least any resolution needs to make clear what that threshold is for it to become a permanent part of the city. Also, and one of the reasons that's so important is because the artwork does need scrutiny according to New York standards of public art. There are many significant, well-written critiques by art experts, art historians, who say this is really not a high-quality sculpture worthy of the New York City public collection. It has a very incoherent meaning. I mean, the fact that it's being moved around, at one point it's challenging the bull, now it's challenging the New York Stock Exchange, it's conceded as an advertising campaign. It's a very incoherent statement. It's basically, in some ways, it's stating, it's not really, I mean, I can't see the statement about board members. That's something you could only learn if you did further research. I mean, if we're honest about it, it's to advance the profile of State Street Financial. They don't have any sort of monopoly on it. And it's an incoherent critique of the stock exchange itself, whether they are, I don't need to, I guess I'll finish it. I don't need to critique the statue, but there are most art experts, most do not consider this a work of art worthy of New York. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, people like it, yes, but in terms of public art collection, anyway, that's a decision for the Public Design Commission. There's a process. I'll shut up. Thank you.
How is it that you guys were able to
not do this public art process that normally statues have to take?
I'm sorry, what the question again? We
Typically works that kind of fall in this jurisdiction that Todd was describing, they follow a different course than, let's say, a modification to a building or something, putting something in a historic district. It's called some sort of public art review process, and I'm not so familiar with it, but I was just wondering, how is it that you ended up going on this trajectory of approval versus what the standard that we see is typically through the public design committee or commission or whoever that is?
So, I mean, we really took guidance from the city. As I mentioned before, the original permit was a 7-day street permit, and then with the overwhelming response, there was a desire to keep her longer at Bowling Green, and the option that was presented to us was the DOT Arts Program, which I believe is a 3+ year program where we were re-upping extension after extension on an annual basis. So we took the guidance from the mayor's office and the DOT in particular that we were working with through that program.
And I'd like to add that only corporations would ever get that status. Sorry to interject, but I've never, no private public group could ever get that type of treatment.
Jason, when they're finished.
No, go ahead.
So I just want to thank Todd for that brief introduction, which I think was spot on. And I definitely agree with what you're saying. I'm sorry, I understand, what the crowds do, but, they're not exactly the ultimate arbiter of taste. I think that, if indeed it is an advertising campaign, you really should have told us about that. Like, let's not mix, as he says, monuments and art with private corporate campaigns that then litter our streets. And I will offer my vote for an annual review rather than a permanent position.
I appreciate that perspective. I just want to add that we've been very upfront and spoken very publicly and through our whole permitting process about what the point has been behind the Fearless Girls statue, and in particular, the guidance that we were directing to the companies that we invest in, that we wanted to see more gender diversity at the board level because it does drive overall performance of those companies. So we've been, whether it was the original installation, whether it was the reinstallation on 2018, and we've celebrated on International Women's Day her placement every single year, and we've done a report out on the impact each year of the companies that we originally identified, and then ultimately the companies that have moved diversity forward on their boards. We put press releases out on that. So we've been very vocal about what the campaign is all about and the purpose behind it.
May I just ask, just out of curiosity, how did you decide on this age for this statue? How did the representation of practically an infant relates and inspires adult women?
Yeah, so that was something that we talked through during the campaign, and we really felt by having a strong, confident young girl would not only inspire the leaders of today, but inspire future generations. And what's been really great about this campaign is that we've had tons and tons of young girls come down to the statue and do the pose and have that bold and confident pose and be inspired by that component of the campaign. So that's really the reason behind it.
I would just like to add that one problem with this idea that the campaign is just for women on boards is that previous to the statue's installation, State Street had settled a lawsuit about pay discrimination against women in its own company. So this was also patently a attempt to to repair its own reputation on gender that had been already harmed.
Who is the artist?
It's an artist by the name of Kristen Visbal.
American?
Yes.
Been spoken out about this at all publicly?
Has Kristen?
Yeah, has she come to any of these meetings and, you know, to speak in favor of her amazing work? How does she spell her last name?
It's Visbal,
Oh.
Visbal.
Okay.
She's actually been, sorry to interject, but I have some knowledge on this. She's actually been in a legal dispute with the company because she claims some sort of rights to the statue and its design. It was not compensated very much at all, apparently a quite paltry amount. Yet State Street claims full copyright and is preventing her reproduction of the sculpture. So she may not even necessarily support this.
I'm sorry, is this true?
I can't get into kind of current, legal situation regarding the artist. I can say that she was originally at the installation and has had public statements regarding the movement of the statue to the New York Stock Exchange in support. She was in the mayor's press release when the announcement went, when she was originally moving from Bowling Green to the New York Stock Exchange.
Okay, and then somewhere in there, the relationship soured. So we don't need to know the exact details of a lawsuit, but wish you had brought this up, because if Todd wasn't here, people like me would be unaware. So thank you again, Todd. Jason, I would really like to propose a vote for a temporary spot, 1 day less a year.
Another question. I'm
Just
sorry
a
for all the
moment.
questions. Who's the applicant?
Jason, hold on 1 second. Roger Byram is on the phone. He's having a hard time logging. So would you like that question answered, or would you like Roger to speak from my phone? I'm sorry.
Hear who the applicant is, because I'm taking notes.
Hold on.
It's State Street Global
Okay,
Advisors.
State Street is the applicant. And Sarah's
Yeah.
from where? Sarah
I
represents.
work at State Street as well.
Oh, great.
Sarah
Okay, so it's simple. State Street. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
go,
Yes.
Roger.
Okay, Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, just as a long-time member of community board and landmarks chair until recently, this has been quite a contentious issue from day one. When it was installed at Bowling Green, it was not done through anything other than a bit of a cheeky campaign. So I do agree that the appropriate approvals are to renew it just for a limited period of time. We had a similar issue, those of us may remember, with the Woolworth building, where advertisers were seeking to use the sheds around the Woolworth building for advertising. And there was no really ruling on that. We had to fight very hard to get LPC to point out that we should be using landmarks buildings or landmark districts to be promoting things that are commercially viable for commercial reasons. So I would support renewing it for 1 year, but I do think it's not appropriate to turn this into a permanent installation. Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Roger.
second Vicky's motion. I think Todd's information was very useful.
Before we do any motion, did we have a motion there? I didn't hear a motion.
But Vicky
so-
made something.
I
But go
made
on.
a
Okay,
motion.
don't motion anything quite yet, because
Okay.
I want to say I would be disappointed if we let this move forward really at all, if we didn't get official word that it should not be going through the Public Design Commission. It seems from what little I read on the header of their website, this seems to be under their jurisdiction, and I don't see why, because someone got advice from some mayor or mayor's helper, that we should go to Landmarks with this, and then Landmarks, fumbles around with it, doesn't know what to do with it, that it should circumvent any part of the approval process that might be required by the city charter. So I don't know, but from what I gleaned from the website, it seems like this would be an appropriate thing for their review. I think we should get further insight on that from someone who knows about city policies. And then maybe we could wholeheartedly support it through the right process and make sure that the process is right, that we're being subjecting this installation to. I'm not sure who agrees about that, but
I do.
I agree
you
with
know,
that,
I
Jason.
agree with that.
I agree as
so
well.
so I think that kind of avoids us saying whether we like the sculpture or think it's the right spot, and maybe punts it a little bit to just make sure that everyone knows that we're, that there's a hearing about this even, or whatever. They may have some other policies for public notice, and we have very little policy of public notice right now at the Community Board 1. It's just simply posted on the internet, and then you're meant to meet people on the internet. I certainly don't have a great, I guess, litmus test for what people in the community do like or don't like about it. I don't know. I'm curious. We only have Todd that came out in opposition of it, and
Jason, you have one more hand up, at least
oh
from what I
yeah,
can
go
see in
ahead.
the
Go ahead.
participants
Oh,
on
great.
attendees. I think you have to
So
let that person speak.
all right, so let's get that person in there.
Hi, everyone. This is
Victoria?
Victoria Hilstrom. Hi, I am also here to object for the very same reasons that Todd Fine has indicated. There is a process for approval. I take offense that a company is using our streets to forward their agenda. I would much rather see an entire women board. I also take extreme offense that the artist has had to involve themselves in litigation and they neglected to mention such a thing. I think it's very disrespectful to the arts, to the community, and it seems that they kind of just push this in there, and it really requires the proper process. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Victoria. And I want to be clear, I'm not really against it or for it. I'm really for it following the process. Not knowing the process, I'd like to make sure that it's being followed correctly. And I would like, yeah, go ahead.
If you'd like, I could read the section of the city charter related to more than 1 year, why this is coming up. So in city charter chapter 37, it says, designs for all works of art or structures intended for temporary use in a fixed location during a period of more than 1 year shall be subject to the same forms of procedure as those adopted for permanent use. But the approval of such design shall be for a period determined by the commission not to exceed 3 years, after which the commission shall either extend the period or order the removal of the work or art or sculpture. So if that may be why they'd have to do it less than 1 year. So I don't quite understand how landmarks could approve it for more than 1 year, because that would, according to the city charter, would need to go to the design commission. So maybe they're saying that it becomes part of the stock exchange itself, part of the building. Is that the rationale, and not under design commission approval? That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, well, we shouldn't be put on the spot to determine that. That's not our role here. And so seeing that the statue is already concreted into the ground, the applicant has nothing to worry about it being removed in the time period when we are going to be doing some diligence to make sure that it followed the right procedure, even though, this is technically, while we're being asked for an extension of a permit, the origination of the permit is actually, quite frankly, a legalization of what was put there without permit. So I think, it sounds like that because, well, okay, let me ask this question of the applicant. Is there a previously approved landmarks permit for the existing location that is now expiring?
I don't know if it's a landmarks permit. Sarah, do you have the exact definition of what the current permit is, which is through the end of November?
Yes, we have a current LPC permit that expires, yes, at the end of November of this year, and they guided us to come here as our next step. So that's the process that we had been following, because that was the guidance that we had received up until this point.
We have a public hearing for that initial permit.
I know that we have a public hearing in this November for the renewal of the permit, but John, sorry, I'm not sure if I could speak to what happened in 2018.
No, I don't know.
I believe there was no hearing.
I don't know what the process was. We were just guided by the LPC, and as Sarah said, we're happy to follow whatever process we should be following. This is the guidance that we've received from the LPC, that this is the process we should follow, given that the permit is going to be coming to an end at the end of November.
Well, I guess I'd like to see a copy of the permit.
Well, Jason,
And then I'd like to have Jennifer research with landmarks how the permit was gotten.
Jason,
And then we can, yes, go ahead, Vicky.
Roger Byram is saying that there was no public hearing, that they came to us originally when they wanted to move from Bowling Green to this current location, and a permit was granted for 1 year, and that was it. And now they're just here, for extensions.
I'm sorry. So there was a permit granted, and it was a public hearing, and we were
hearing. There was no public hearing. They just came to us asking if they can relocate from Bowling Green.
I think it was.
well. That
Can you hear Roger?
I believe in 2018 it was the permit was a 3-year it was a permit that could be extended on an annual basis for up to 3 years. And so we followed whatever that process was back in 2018 to get to the reinstallation at the New York Stock Exchange. Now we've exhausted that permitting process. And so we're going through this permitting process.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just have a question that I couldn't weigh in on whether I'm in favor of this or not until it's answered, and you might not know it tonight. And I'm not going to go off of Roger's secondary phone call information. The question is simply, did you have to go to a public hearing to get a permit for the statue where it stands right now? It's very simple. It's either a yes or no question to be answered, and you might not know the answer right now. It's not, did we come to us or did we?
I don't know if the agency went to a public hearing. I certainly did not participate in a public hearing at the time. There may have been a public hearing that the LPC brought it to without our, testifying to it, but I was not involved in that. I would have known if someone else at State Street was involved in a public hearing. So we weren't at the time, but maybe the LPC was.
Okay, well, I need okay, so it's okay that you weren't involved. I still have the question I still want to understand is whether in October of 2018, there was a public hearing at the LPC offices where someone presented this for the public to weigh in on. And if the answer is no, in my case, I have a big problem with extending such permit. Okay. So
Jason,
go.
Roger is speaking again. This is go ahead, Roger.
They did come to Landmarks Committee, Jason, in 2018. I recall the meeting, and we agreed to a temporary installation of 1 year. My understanding then was it went to LPC at staff level and was granted the 1 year. So I think they're in compliance, but the issue is that they're running out of options because they're asking for a permanent structure when they haven't gone through what now is the required process.
I guess my point is, my feeling is the process is flawed from the beginning with that way of doing it, and it should have just gone to a big old public hearing process then, like we do for people changing scuppers on old buildings if they have to, and it shouldn't have been circumvented. So because I just have this kind of strong feeling that the public, not me and us 8 people, I barely visit this area. I know, Roger, you're very familiar with it. I want to hear more about what other people have to say about it. And if you don't go to public hearings and you don't give notification to communities in that manner, then you get less action from the public. And you get just 2 people, Todd and Vicky, saying they don't like it. And so it's not the applicant's fault, and it's not the fault of anybody, but for me,
Yeah.
it just brings me back to having a problem extending it for any amount of time. I can get behind, if the group wants to like rally behind a mini extension here, I'm all for that too. I could vote that way, but it's like, why are we doing that? It's concreted into the ground. Let's make sure that this is being done and setting a precedent, to Todd's point, for how these things are set and concreted into the grounds of our public streets.
Yeah, I'd like to add that it's not only just about a public hearing, it's that the Public Design Commission has art experts that review public art. That is their purpose, and they're supposed to review public art that's placed for more than 1 year. So it's not even just that the public get to opine. They might be able to opine in some, squirrely LPC meeting, we don't know, but this process for public art more than 1 year is very explicitly the Public Design Commission. And it sounds like they don't even know if that's going to be part of this.
Well, so yeah, and that's back to my original point, which is like, I'm personally not willing to weigh in unless someone gives me absolute clarity by way of, Jennifer or whoever at CB1 can get this information, how it is that someone interpreted the law to say they didn't have to go to the Public Design Commission. So I can understand that interpretation and maybe I'm hope to agree with it, but it seems like some step was not followed here. So I'd like to just punt on it and, like I said, it's cemented in the ground. So, the applicant gets what they want while it's being laid over. Let's get more information. I guess I could work with Jennifer on that. Sure, it doesn't take a lot of time to just make sure that we know that the process is being followed the right way. And then have them back through that process. And you know what, if nothing changes from what I saw presented tonight, and I then know that the process was followed the right way, I will vote in favor of this and write a resolution in that way.
One thing we can look at on our end, I don't remember it, but there's a chance that as part of that, our agency might have represented us at some kind of public hearing. I don't know the answer to that. We can certainly get that.
Terrific. If behind the scenes, you guys did follow that process. That's why I don't want, it's like, it's hearsay to say that you didn't follow it. Maybe you did, but you're here today for a landmarks permit. And the question's coming up, where's your Public Design Commission permit? And so we just want to make sure that everything's, on the up and up with, just out of no fault of your own. Just like you maybe got bad advice. The city loved the statue. They moved you along. Let's give you a shot and make sure that you did everything you're supposed to do. And then I can support it fully. And that's just my opinion. Like I said, if everybody else at this table wants to go ahead and grant the extension right now and have me write a resolution, I can get behind that too. I'm not trying to impose my personal feelings about it.
Jason, may I speak?
Yes.
Thank you. No, I completely agree with what you're proposing. Only my initial reaction was just if they're here and this is what we have to vote on, then a temporary extension would have been my choice rather than a permanent one. But if this venue that you just proposed is more palatable, and I'm in complete compliance with, agreement with you. Gerald, you have an opinion?
Well, yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about everything that's been said tonight. I'm on Broad Street probably once, twice a week at least. It's completely congested now. We've sat in other meetings on this community board discussing the takeover, the privatization of public space, the open streets. Open restaurants issue down through Broad Street is as bad as it is anywhere else in terms of the expanse of the public space being taken over for private enterprise, and so based off of that, I love the campaign of more diversity in boards across the U.S. and it's I'm sure a phenomenal um, crowd pleaser for New York City in particular, but you know, on the notion of the public space, I mean, I would agree with the committee here that, you know, there is a process in place, and it should go through the process like every other piece of public art. Yet this isn't really public art, is it? So, you know, is it going to be donated to the city at some point? Is that, I don't know. I mean, if I were to make a motion right now, it would be to shelve this and get more information.
Yeah. Well said.
I hate to ask, I'm going to ask one more question and hope that everyone agrees to shelve, and that is to the point of, you know, is State Street, aren't you guys putting forward as the applicant that this is public art? This isn't some, you would say if someone asked you, what is this? This is a statue, it's public art. Is that right? Am I putting words in your mouth?
No, you're not putting words in our mouth.
Okay, good.
In our mouth.
Okay,
I
good.
believe it's public.
Okay, great. All right, I think, go ahead.
I mean, I just also want to say though that I did not know that there were clothes being put on the piece of art, that other things were happening to it. I think looking into, you know, who owns the bull, how is that being handled, how was it handled, and going forward, I mean, obviously shelving this for right now until we have more information, but those are some other questions that I would have is how are other pieces of artwork across the city being handled? And then if we ever get to a resolution, that obviously that you know, the art is art, and it's not. I'm so sorry when I heard that somebody was putting clothes on it. I immediately was triggered with a reminder of a family member who lives in a rural suburban community, and one of the neighbors has a plastic duck out front that changes clothes every day. I'm like, oh my God, I hope that's not what's happening on Wall Street. So that's all I have to say about it.
Maybe I could just quickly address that. So because she's has become so iconic, there are people who've put different types of clothing on her. We can't control what and that happens to other statues as well.
Yep.
What we've generally done is celebrate Fearless Girl on her anniversary and release the latest numbers. And we have done some installations around Fearless Girl where we've gotten a permit. For example, this last celebration, we did have kind of a mock of broken glass, talking about kind of the shattered glass ceilings that have happened since Fearless Girl was originally placed. That was a very temporary 48-hour installation to draw attention to the issue.
Sorry.
You said it was $1 billion within the first 24 hours, $1 billion on Instagram. Is that correct?
No, in the first, and there's some data, I believe, in the appendix in terms of the overall response to Fearless Girl, but over 1 billion impressions in the first 12 hours, hundreds of millions of views on Instagram.
What is the Instagram page?
We don't have an Instagram page. This was just people
the hashtag
taking photos of her, or sharing the content and her message during the campaign, or after the installation, and just organically someone created a change.org petition to make her more permanent. That happened in 2017. That was something that was just done by the public. It wasn't done by us, and I think got close to 60,000 signatures online to support it. Yeah, there's an image of it right there.
I just want to interrupt because we have another person who's raised their hand from the public. And then, John, I want you to think about the answer to this question while this person's talking. Are you going to be okay and work with us if we delay you on your hearing to renew the permit, in light of the fact that this thing isn't going to move, physically, if we kick it down a month? But who's this next person who wants to talk?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and unmute them. So call in user 5, started with the number 212-229. Can you please identify
Yeah,
yourself?
hi, it's Roger. I'm struggling to participate in the meeting. I mean, I think we can all agree that this has been a tremendously successful campaign. And that's not the issue here, I don't think. I think the issue here is that our remit is to think about what's appropriate in our historic districts, and this was brought to us in a sort of backdoor way. I agree with what everyone's saying, Todd and Jason and Vicky and Susan, that it needs to now go through the public process. But I think we would be egregious to suggest that we shouldn't give some extension to give time for this process to happen. And if the permit runs out in November, that's a month away. So I do think we should be collaborative and give an extension of 6 or more months rather than 1, because it's a complicated matter. Otherwise, we may end up with a lot of people saying we're being too focused on the wrong things. Thank you.
I also want, excuse me, I'm sorry to interject, but I wanted to correct that the close on the statue occurred to a campaign that was done with Salvation Army in December of 2020. They can correct if that occurred or not.
All right. Well,
So, so in answer to, I believe it was Jason's question.
yes.
And I agree with Roger. Given I don't know, and we're not familiar with the process. Obviously, we're not involved in public art to this extent. So this is a new process for us. It has been a new process for us every time. It wasn't something we were expecting. I think if the board would feel comfortable giving us an extension, if it could be up to a year to allow whatever process needs to play out, I think that would be extremely helpful, especially if you're talking about another. We certainly want to follow whatever the right process is, and we've been seeking guidance from the city for that. So we're happy to follow whatever process is appropriate. The point is, though, that the permit does expire at the end of November, and it would be helpful if this process can't be wrapped up and these other hearings can't be wrapped up by the end of November, then we have an issue with no permit.
Okay, can I just tell you my problem with that? I appreciate what, and I think, again, I can get behind something like that. But the problem with that is the way the process works for us is we're going to write a resolution. Landmarks Commission, they're going to take that resolution, carefully crumple it up, throw it in a wastebasket. You're going to go to public hearing. The commissioners are all going to stop sketching for 5 minutes and give their opinion. And they're going to say, you know what, let's extend it for 4 years. And we didn't have any say, because that's how the process works. So that's my fear of giving an extension. If anyone else disagrees with that and thinks that the process is probably going to go differently and there's a way to get on the desk of the commissioner or Caroline King Levy and say, listen, guys, we're serious. We want a very mini extension so that everyone can check and see that the proper process was filed. I just don't know if we'll get that going Roger and John's way, but I want to do this and act as a committee. I'm just interjecting my, experience at the commission level and how things run with our resolutions. So are we going to go with Roger's way, a mini extension?
No, I think we should stick to what you and I are discussing.
Well, then let's take a straw poll.
Yeah, exactly.
So how can we do that?
Do that. Before you do that, Jason, just one comment to John about this statute. Now, speaking as a woman professional, not as necessarily a member of the community board, there are a couple of things. When art is meant to be a public art concept, that comes with a lot of design responsibility that was not thought of in here. We don't make a statue that is 3 feet high, plonk it on the ground, don't have any kind of roping or a plinth for it. That's why we have public art that when it is public, it has, a great message, and it's designed to implement that message. So your intent or lack thereof design experience is evident here in this little statue. And then you wonder why people put clothing on it. I also want to say, as a mature professional woman, I have no idea for the life of me why you are using to represent me and all the other women a little tiny child. Okay, this is not a teenager, this is not a young woman, this is not a 35-year-old professional. Speaking as a woman, I cannot believe that you allowed yourself to do something like this on our behalf, and then try not to make it a public art. So as I said, I'm speaking as a professional woman. I see what the purpose is, but I'm sorry that it's gone about this way. Anyway, Jason, I'm done on this. We should move on. We have 4 hours.
Close this out because I feel like John and Sarah have been really good sports, and we've heard a lot about this already. So let's do a straw poll. I can't see how many people we have on here. I want to go last. Vicky, you're a punt it. You want to punt, right?
Yes, I want to go
Okay.
your way. I want a
Okay,
hearing.
Sarah. Gerald, what do you want?
I'm sorry, I was muted. I am with Vicky on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chow?
Same.
Okay. I got Liz next.
Yeah, I would, excuse me, I would go with Roger on the mini extension.
Okay, and then we have Megan.
I'm with Vicky's suggestion.
Okay, so that's looking like 3-2. I'm not quite. Susan?
I'll go with Vicky and you.
Okay, so 4. Vera, you're the one. Silence means up.
I'm laughing. I was laughing. I said, what if I told you I can go either way?
That's fine, because you still were. I think that still puts us one more in the punting direction. So, okay. So I'm gonna say I don't think we can write a resolution in favor, but I am gonna make a promise to John and Sarah, and that is, could we not, like, in the next 4 days, business days, run together to find out maybe in fact that all the processes were followed the right way, having to do with design commission? That would move me a lot more to the other direction, maybe it's not such a postponement. Maybe by next month we can get the material together that kind of shed this into a little bit of a different light, and just do an expedited punting of this. And I guess I really don't. For me, I think punting doesn't necessarily, it doesn't hurt you guys at all, because you're just going to not be in compliance with a statute that's concrete in the ground. So I would write a letter to LPC, and we should say, please don't come and take the statue out of the ground. That's not what we're saying. So the way that cities do irrational things, they're not going to do that anyway. And let's work with you guys to just make sure that you covered all the bases. And if we find out that it should have gone through the design commission, then you guys are going to race. It's incumbent on you to race to the design commission and put it through that process. And we'll be ready to hear it right away. Seems like you have the material already. I just don't see it as such a delay. And I also don't see it as us voicing opposition necessarily to it. Okay, so it's a.
So just to be clear, so we will chase down with the LPC exactly the process that was followed back in 2018. And the only other thing that I'm hearing is a concern related to, and I'm not familiar with the design process, but is that something that we should? Are those the only 2 items, and that we can follow up with the LPC on?
For me, I think yes.
So
For me,
are those
I think
the only,
yes.
those the only 2?
That
Okay.
gives me a lot. That makes me feel a lot better. Like, ideally, you get a letter or correspondence from the Public Design Commission saying this is not in our jurisdiction. I'm just saying that would be like the easy, clean thing. And then LPC a comment about just why they felt like, even though you guys came to us, maybe voluntarily, why they felt or confirmed that there wasn't a landmarks public hearing with the commission, why they felt that wasn't necessary. And maybe then they have a great, citation of the law that cleans it all up and shuts me up, and then we just move on to, a favorable resolution.
Yeah, so it would be great to facilitate a conversation with you and the LPC about what their process was in 2018, because you both certainly know far more than we do about the process. We're just trying to follow the right rules here.
Sorry, if I could interject, I would just like to say, John, this is Victoria, that it is not, we love that you are invested in this statue and supporting the arts. I think that many of our issues are with LPC, and that they really not regarded our landmarks, that we're more concerned with how the city is handling things, having nothing to do with your statue, or it really is just more how the Landmark Preservation Commission is glossing over some very important buildings in the city, having less to do with your statue. So I didn't want you to think that I don't appreciate the notion that you feel that this is an important statement. It really is really more directed towards the Landmark Preservation Commission.
We appreciate that comment. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Second that. Okay, so let's move on. I don't know formally, what are we doing? We're writing a resolution that says, please get back to us on these two things that John outlined, and then we'll give our ruling. Is that how we're going to work for a resolution for the committee?
I think so.
Okay, so call to question.
Second.
Okay,
Oh, Jason, you want to go ahead and or try to go to a roll call vote, whichever way?
Yeah, let's do a roll call vote. So,
Yeah, Jason.
I'm a yes for the resolution.
Right. Okay. And Vicky.
Yes.
Okay. Mark is not here. Susan.
Yes.
Bruce is not here. Liz.
Yes.
Gerald.
Yes.
Megan.
Yes.
Vera.
Yes.
Chow.
Yes.
Okay, and Roger.
Yes.
Okay. With all the votes in, the motion passes.
All right, who do we have next? Who's the next victim? John and Sarah, thank you. And I think we're going to be able to give you a positive resolution when we follow up on this stuff.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Great. So for the next application, 78 Reed Street, we have our presenter here with us tonight, Robert Bianco. Robert, I'm used to
Hello.
panelists, so yeah.
Yep, great. Thank you. I think I don't have the share button access.
One moment. And I will be presenter.
Robert, while that's happening, what is the description of your application?
So this is a storefront infill replacement at 78 Reed Street, actually at the Church Street facade, 177 Church Street. And I do have the share option
Thank
now. Okay. So good evening. Thank you for having me to the committee meeting. I am Robert Bianco with PKSB Architects, and I'm representing the owners of 78 Reed Street. The building is located in the Tribeca South Historic District at the corner of Reed and Church Street, and was originally built as two separate buildings in the 1860s, and the two buildings were merged around 1911. There's a corner lot building and then an L-shaped building that wraps from Church Street to Reed Street, and our scope of work is limited to the Church Street facade of that L-shaped building. And that portion of the building directly abuts the northern boundary line of the historic district. So this is looking at the block elevation of Church Street. The buildings to the left-hand side of the page or to the north are outside of the district. Our building is just to the south of the district line, and then further south is a continuation of the district and the building. And we've included the Reed Street facade just for context. Along Reed Street, there are two other retail spaces accessed from Reed Street, and the main entry to the residential floors above is also located at Reed Street within the westernmost bay of that L-shaped portion of the building. So looking in plan, so this is what's now one single building. You can see the one L-shaped building and then the corner lot. And our area of work is at the Church Street facade, Church Street retail space. And I just want to point out that part of this application is removal of the freight elevator that fronts onto Church Street. That elevator really is not used anymore. The elevator that is accessed from the Reed Street main entry serves all floors of the building. These are some existing condition photos of the Church Street retail facade. There are cast iron columns intact and will remain in place. The current condition is two very small retail stores elevated about 3 feet above the sidewalk, and then the freight elevator fronting onto the street. And then just a few more close-up photos. The concrete steps up to the raised retail are not original. They're concrete, not stone. The freight elevator also is not original, although it was installed probably just prior to 1940, maybe in the 1920s. It's shown in the 1940 tax photo, but the doors are pretty badly deteriorated, and the surrounding wall is just concrete block, which has been stuccoed over and scored to look like concrete block. So our application is to lower the floor of the retail space to be aligned with grade to provide an accessible entry to a new retail store, removal of the freight elevator, and replacement of the storefront infill between the existing cast iron columns. We're introducing one double entrance door at the center bay and 2 display windows on either side. So full building elevations, existing condition to the left and proposed condition to the right. Our design includes solid bulkheads that would align with the column bases, double glass doors with a solid bottom panel with recessed panel. This is all painted metal and glass. Transoms above with metal cutout letters mounted to signage rails in front of the glass transoms, and then a zone for mechanical louvers, and which will be obscured by decorative metal grillage at the top. And just an enlarged elevation showing the different elements, solid bulkhead, recessed metal panels, double doors with recessed panels at the bottom. The signage rails will sit in front of the glass and cut out metal 12-inch high cutout letters. And we are also identifying a zone for mechanical louvers, and we wanted to treat that a little bit differently by providing another division in the storefront frame at the decorative metal grille panels, just to add a little more detail and texture. And just a few examples of a similar decorative grille obscuring louvers at the top. The photo on the left is one example in the Tribeca district. On the right is an example in the Soho district, and then just for reference, a close-up photo of the storefront at this building on the Reed Street facade. Building section showing the removal of the raised steps. We're lowering the floor. We'll have an at-grade entrance, accessible entry to the new retail space, existing and proposed wall sections, existing
That one?
roll
Let's do the
down
existing
gates.
and proposed.
Sorry, Jason?
Leave that up, because for me, that's how I'm gonna kind of, see what you're doing at the plane of the existing and proposed storefront, if that's okay. But keep going.
Okay, sure. So I'll go through each section. The first is a section taken at the display, the northernmost display window, removal of existing roll-down gates, removal of the existing storefront infill, and then replacement with solid bulkhead that will align with the column bases, painted metal, painted aluminum and glass storefront on top, a clear glass transom above the display window with signage mounted to rails. The projection of the signage is about 12 inches. And then above the glass transom is where we are proposing mechanical louvers. And then the middle section is cut through the existing recessed entry doors, steps up to recessed entry doors. That'll all get removed. Again, obviously non-historic. Roll down gates will be removed and replacement with double doors at the center bay. And the transom detail is the same at all bays. And then enlarged plan details, the top is showing the existing condition with the display window to the north, the recessed steps up to retail entry in the middle, and the existing freight elevator on the southernmost bay. And then in the center is a plan detail section cut at the doors, and then at the bottom, plan detail cut above the doors at the glass transom, showing the attachment of
Can I say
signage
something
rails.
detail that I think you have wrong, that I'm assuming?
What's that?
I'm going to say something about where you're putting this storefront. Not so much do I agree about the signage or whatever the makeup of it, but in fact, you're going to be putting it further back, because the cast iron, we're not going to want you to attach that storefront to the cast iron on the side like that. It's going to be at the back of the cast iron, so maybe 6 inches further back, so that it's in the right, appropriate place. But keep going.
Okay, I think we're maintaining basically the same location as the existing display window.
That's where you have it wrong. The existing one is in the wrong place.
Is
So
put,
don't follow that.
Oh, I
And
see what
it'll
you're saying.
become self-evident as when you really look at it.
This
But
one.
yeah. Okay, yeah, show us the column and I'll explain to you where I think it should be. Yeah, you can't
So this
see it now.
existing display window is sort of just behind the
Like
circular column.
behind each column, there's a rectangular cast iron casted extruded piece, and it's behind that you'll put the plane of the that would be the appropriate place.
Right. Well, it may be incorrectly represented as
Yeah, that's okay.
plan detail.
Okay. So
These
after-
might be two separate elements,
After
but
the
we'll
plan detail-
of course double check all of that.
How
And
much more
after
do we
after
have?
the plan details, we have
The
some
detail.
details at the upper louver with the integrated decorative mesh, the solid bulkhead, which varies because the sidewalk varies. It varies from about 3 feet to 2 feet. And then the signage rails, they're 1 inch deep by 12-inch tall, cut out metal letters mounted to rails that would get attached to the storefront framing, not to the cast iron. And then finally, some comparison views of existing conditions at the top and proposed rendered views at the bottom.
It's just this 25 footer or whatever it is. That you, right?
Yes, we're only
buildings.
Working on the Church Street portion.
Okay, well, you know what? I think that if that's not your last slide, that's certainly the slide to leave it on.
Yeah, that's the last.
Okay. And I'm going to start off with the comment of, or the question. This is all metal. This is all extruded aluminum.
It is. It
And
is.
color
And the color is a lighter gray than the column.
And the columns are proposed to be repainted or no?
Yes, repainted. Pretty much what the existing condition is.
And the labor law fire escape extension, that thing all stays there coming across the new storefront, right? That whole fire escape ladder.
Yes, that's not part of this.
The thing. Okay, so I would much prefer. This is a comment, and that I don't. It's not like I'll vote one way or the other. I want to hear what everybody else has. I would much prefer it to be painted wood. I would much prefer less louvers, less to zero louvers, and I'll ask that maybe the louvers were even considered to be one of the bulkhead panels instead, and have a more glass,
Right.
and it could be wood, and then I would also say I'm disturbed by the signage, and I certainly don't think it's appropriate. But I think there's something there, and if you did do it, if you attached it to the new storefront, and that new storefront was wood, I would go for it right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll end my comments.
Well, thank you. That your comments do align with some additional feedback that we got from Landmarks just yesterday. And
so let's go to another person on the board who wants to lay it on the line and tell us how they feel.
Could I just address one of your comments about the bulkhead, the louvers within the bulkhead? That was a question that Landmarks raised yesterday, and that's a little difficult because the cellar space directly below this is a separate tenant. It's not.
It's also probably not realistic horizontal.
It's not really
vertical location for a louver. So I'll follow up with the back comment since no one else wants to say anything. Can we just like get a 66% reduction in louvers and like maybe only put one that's 1.5 times the size in the center bay, and then you have you can have your way with how you break up the show windows that flank that, go for as much glass as possible, and make it wood if you're feeling saucy about it.
Well, I'll go next, if that's okay with everyone.
Sure.
Okay. So when I'm looking at the rendering on the bottom, right? Just talk about, for example, some larger architectural issues like, the black part, the lintel, the frieze, right? That the columns.
Yep.
My community board members, where the columns come up to. I would like you to study, for example, if I don't know why you're treating the window mullions and the door mullion in a gray when all the other ones are black. But one thing that might appease, Jason's concern with the louvers is that if they were also painted black, and so was the base, right? Base of the windows, base of the door, so that we get that. And then in the center, you can have the lighter gray if you want. It just seems a little like these thin columns come down and then this large top part sits on it. So something there is a little jarring to the eye. This is very high, Jason. I don't know how much this is, like 15 foot, 20 foot high windows. So if the louvers were painted black and so was the base, then we have a lot of light coming in. I have to say that I don't think we need 3 signs saying retail, retail, retail. People are not blind. I mean, just one above the door is sufficient. And I also would like to know, you put the door right in line with the property line, and don't you have to have a door recessed, 18 inches so that part of the door is inside so that it doesn't smack pedestrians as you're going?
It is recessed a bit.
It could be a bit.
And we're utilizing a pivot hinge so that there's only 1'3" projection beyond the building line. It's not directly at the building line because the columns project all the way to the building line.
I think the law is 18 inches, right?
Yeah, we're within that clearance.
Oh, you mean that you're recessed
You were recessed.
18 inches
Yeah,
from the face of the column.
correct.
Okay. That would be my comment. I would like you to reassess the way that this is acting as the base of the building, and it has to have meat to uphold the structure above. And I think you can achieve that with color, since you're not doing stone and brick and metal, you're doing just 2 materials, so you'll have to use color. And please get rid of 3 signs. We do not need 3 signs telling you the same thing. Look at the place to the left. I mean, vile. Just like we're bombarded by commercialism. Otherwise, I think you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Vicky. So who's next?
Yeah, Jason, I just have a question here regarding the base. I'm looking at this very strong horizontal line next door, and I'm thinking on this. Forgive me, but the Church Street doesn't actually bow like that. That's just I
Photograph.
think a glitch in the photographs, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
There is a slope. There is a slope. It's just not that dramatic.
Right. Yeah, I've been over here quite a few times. So in terms of stepping back the base panels there, is there, I'm having a hard time getting that. The front elevation looks very nice, but is there a reason that the base panels are set back as far and not kind of continuing the strong horizontal datum across the bottom? And is there a photograph? I don't think the first photograph.
I do think that the model is not aligned with this section detail. It looks like
I'm looking
a
at
little bit, we have a
screens here.
little bit of
Okay.
we have a little bit of a projection of the base, but I agree with your comment. I do think it can come out a little bit further. So we'll certainly.
I mean, even if it seems to me, even if there were well, there might be an opportunity there for some planter boxes, even. I don't know if that's something you've discussed with the client or in-house there, but I guess what I'm saying is I'm wanting the base to read a little stronger.
Got it.
That's what I was advocating for, right?
You're saying you want the base to be as flush with the front of the building as almost like the existing storefront, not as ugly, but
Right,
you
correct.
like what's happening there. The plain. Okay.
I'm gonna have to reach back into my classical training, but those are, correct me if I'm wrong, Vicky, the plinths, right?
Right, might be a shell.
Yeah.
And
Well, here's what I'll say. I want to interject here. There's a small chance, albeit small, that under that concrete thing on the left bay, there's a cast iron, if you want to call it a plinth or whatever, flat piece. It depends how the building was built. And so we should make a note. I don't see a probe, and those things have been known to be hidden behind these types of things. I would like to put in the resolution that that's investigated. It's very simple. They just poke a hole in it when they're ready to start. And if we find a magnificent old 19 cast iron sill, we'll ask them to keep it. And then that ties in with Gerald's and Vicky's opinion about keeping we call it a bulkhead, as flush with the front of the property, which I like as well. So that would happen in both the flanking bays, right? And then that couldn't happen in the center bay where the doors are, because it just simply, that detail wouldn't be possible. You couldn't pop out your storefront for a glass door. So, right, Vicky and Gerald, do you understand what I'm saying about that?
And it also gives a different reading. You know, there's less of this glass monolith, and a bit of a variety. It gives shadows and depth to the side bays. I agree.
Okay, so you guys want to put that forward. Anybody else have any design ideas or things they don't like about at the committee level that they don't like about this proposal?
Are the stairs they're original to the building, or they were in a later addition?
No, they were a later addition. This was most likely just a loading dock.
Okay, more committee members before we kind of formulate what the resolution is and get a vote going here. And it's okay to not have an opinion. So we're closing opinions? Couldn't be. Nobody else? Susan? Anybody still awake out there? No, but seriously. Okay, nobody. All right. So
You managed to do all the ones.
But you
I think you're fine.
okay, well, I'm gonna throw a wrinkle into it.
What?
I'm not really in favor of too much of this to vote but I'll write a resolution if you guys are all into. I don't like that it's metal. I don't like the louvers. I don't understand why there need to be so many. I don't like the detail of the retail or something like that, unless you guys want to horse trade some wood storefront. And I guess I like the idea that Gerald had about moving the bulkhead out to be more flush with the column base, but you know, you can't do that at the center bay, and you know, whatever. That's not enough for me to not want to try and reduce the louvers and get a wood storefront in here.
Why don't you put that in the resolution?
Well, because then it sounds like other people are kind of really in favor of most of this, except for the signage. And
No, this is Vera. I agree with what you were saying, Jason.
Yeah, me too.
Silence just means we agree.
right.
Yes. And Jason, this is Liz. I agree as well.
So we agree with, we want reduced louvers.
Yes.
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 We agree that we would like very much if we would like if they could it could work out that by doing wood storefront they could do something more creative with the retail that would be abnormal, or does that stay out of the resolution? We just recommend painted wood.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
And yes.
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 Okay, and we don't like the signage much.
No. We don't.
Okay.
We agree with you.
So Jason, you're recommending the wood because of the example on Church Street?
Well, just because it's like that's what it would have been, and why shouldn't it
Right.
be? And I know what extruded aluminum looks like. It doesn't look beautiful like I think they want it to look rendering. You just look at a 19th century original storefront and look at someone who tries to replicate that. It's just not the same as these aluminum storefronts. What you're going to see at the nail and spa there and the Arapita Deli. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful original warehouse storefront, and for me it dumbs it down. I don't like the aluminum, painted aluminum.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean that's really the crux of why they're here. That and the kind of the signage, I guess, because if they were to just do it in painted wood, they wouldn't. It would just be here for I believe, the signage part, because it's acceptable at staff to replace with a wood.
Mhm.
Painted. And I guess to just I don't want to touch the designer. I think if you guys were to change to wood and do something like what we were talking about at the base, the base part wouldn't necessarily have to be wood. You could make that whatever the most economical thing is, as long as you painted it like a similar color, and then just from above there up, as much glass as you could ever dream of, your store could ever dream of, and one louver. Like, what is all this louver for? Are you guys opening a ice cream store? It's seriously, like, what could you ever want that type of louverage for? I don't know. So you got to ask yourself that question. It's a lot. And you're giving up a lot in not having just more beautiful brand new glass to show all of your beautiful product. Okay, so we're gonna write we can approve something with I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't sound like approval to me, so I'm having trouble. But I'll write whatever. Take some final notes on what we're all saying. We're saying we all agree less louvers. What are all the louvers for?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we're saying to probe the existing
Okay.
base,
Yes.
Probe
That's
the
important.
leftmost bay. Yeah. Okay.
and then regardless of what the probe comes back showing, but even so, bringing out at least the two side bays a little bit forward to continue the horizontal
Okay.
base.
And the signage as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely the signage.
Okay, so to do it delicately with the signage, like, can't we? Aren't there certain? Well, okay, you're contending with the fire escape. That may be part of what you're doing here. You can't put like a blade sign. You have a tough thing here, guys, because you can't that fire escape blocks so much of your primo space. So I see what you're doing, but it's too much. The signage it's too creative. It's too 22nd century. It's not gonna. It's too much. Signage too much. But okay. Less louvers. Probe leftmost bay. Bring side bay bulkheads forward. Reduce signage. So if you guys
Is the signage actually something that gets that gets approved at LPC this go round, or is that a
in this case it is
placeholder? It is, okay.
Well, in this case, the placeholder is that they could put Canal Jeans Company, between the three things if they wanted. It doesn't say obviously retail, but they're going to make an armature. We want to reduce signage and change the armature, change the way it's. We don't want, if there's no one in there and no company, then you have these crazy horizontal lines sticking out.
Right.
Okay, reduce armature. Okay. All right. So we have these five. Oh, and change to wood is like a dream. Change to wood.
So do I call the question?
Yes, but let's explain to, I'm sorry, I forgot the presenter's name.
Bianco.
Robert.
Right.
Bianco.
So Robert, we're gonna, everyone say yes if we are. We're gonna say, we want less louvers. We want you to probe the leftmost bay. We would like you to bring the bulkheads out to the front on the sides. We'd like you to reduce the signage and change the armature connection. And we would love it if you do it painted, the windows and doors in painted wood. Again, I don't see how that's an approval in any way, what you're doing. It's kind of a backhanded disapproval. So
Let's ask him to come back next month.
I mean, I think we should just write a respectful disapproval and let this application move on through the process. Honestly, he came and took his licks. We gave it, come back if you want, sure, and change everything about it, and we'll vote in favor of it. But I'm not going to try to do that. And I think we'll just move on from us. And
I can tell you that regardless, there will be modifications based on the feedback we got from Landmarks yesterday.
Okay.
So we've heard you. We've heard
all
of your sensible recommendations, and we'll see. There's still time for us to modify the presentation before the public hearing because it's not calendared for. I'm not sure if we're actually calendared for a specific date, but it'll be one of the November hearings, so there's time.
Oh,
Jason, we can also approve or disapprove with conditions, correct?
Well, not 6 conditions that affect every single part of the application. I think that's not a great way, right?
Gerald, but too many
Fair
conditions.
Enough. Fair enough.
But I really had a good time with this one. So if you want to come back and join us, we'll be here and I'll write a resolution and I thank you. And is there any public comment?
I do not see any hand raised except for Rogers.
Oh, okay. Roger, please speak.
No, I agree. I think that's a sensible proposal. Thank you.
Roger concurs. So we're going to call the question.
Somebody has to second.
Second.
Okay, folks, I'll go ahead and roll call. Jason?
Yes.
Vicky?
Yes.
Mark? Susan?
Yes.
Gerald?
So a yes vote is for disapproval.
Yes.
All right. Yes. I still like the conditions.
Liz?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Vera?
Yes.
Chow? Oh, he's not here. Okay. Roger?
Yes.
Okay, so all the votes in and the motion passes.
So what's next? Who do we have next? How many more do we have? We may not get to those important items, and I know the 2 ones that I moved to the back, but I don't know.
We have 3 left. So 71 Franklin Street, 1 Hanover, followed by 71 Franklin, and then 123 Greenwich Street.
We have 3 applications left. Wow. So we're definitely, I'm not even going to try and propose that later. I think if in any way, what were the last 2 items that we were going to say for discussion, Jen?
Oh, the very last 2 items. Second to last was a budget response. So just like a quick recap of what was discussed last month, those 4 budget items. And then the last item was a discussion surrounding questions on equity and inclusion.
Okay. That's a tough thing to get to at around 9:15, but let's go to Franklin Street now.
1 Hanover.
1 Hanover. Okay, right.
Yes, so we have, apologies if I mispronounced your name, Dridden Razuk, here with us tonight for that application. So let me just move them to panelist.
Hi, this is Dridden Razuk with S9 Architecture. Thank you for taking the time to review this. I'm not able to share my screen yet. There we go. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm here representing the owner of India House, and just for clarification, Harry's is a separate owner and a separate condominium, so none of the proposal is related to Harry's. And so I'd like to share and get your comments on kind of three modifications. The first being modifications to the Hanover Street entrance. The second being modifications.
May I ask you to speak up a little louder?
Yeah, is that better?
It's better, thank you.
Okay. And the second being a modification to the Stone Street entrance, and the third being replacement of the rooftop equipment. There's additional restoration or replacement being made and being reviewed at the staff level. So this is Hanover Square today, bound by Stone Street, Pearl Street, and Hanover Street. And the building was individually listed in 1965 and then listed within the Stone Street Historic District in 1996. And then this is just a view looking down Stone Street. And this view shows that Hanover or India House today is actually the brownstone that you see along with what we're referring to as three loft buildings. And that's evident by looking at the Bromley map. So here you can see originally it was at the corner of Pearl and Hanover. And then today these lots have been combined. So it's the brownstone and three loft buildings. You can see just kind of how the building has evolved since it was being built in the late 18th century. As you've noticed today, that the pediment and railing at the roof is no longer there. And also originally the building was single windows, 1/1. And then just an interesting fact to see is on the Stone Street side, originally it was brick and has since been modified and plastered over to resemble brownstone. So moving forward in time, in the 1920s, we think the 1/1 windows were replaced with 6/6. See that here? And then these are just some of the historic photos of when it was listed for individual and then within the Stone Street district. And then kind of showing the modification of the entrance throughout time, in addition to the changing of the name from originally the Cotton Exchange to W.R. Graham here, which was a business, and then India House, which was a men's club. And then moving to Stone Street, these are the, and it was listed within the Stone Street Historic District, the townhouses that we're referring to. And as you'll see, really, we're just, this is the one here, 64 Stone Street, that were the entrance that we're proposing modifications. And then moving to the existing conditions of the Hanover Street here, you can see with canopy, glass rail, and the doors here are not historic. They are historic replicas replaced in the 1990s. Then just additional details showing the condition along with the brass rail and its attachment point. And as you see here, these are pocket sliding doors today. And then similarly showing the current conditions along Stone Street, really focusing on 64 Stone Street with the original door here that had a roll down garage gate added. Then the central bay here was windows, but this wasn't originally, this was not the original sill. And then this door was added later for ADA access. So more pictures. And then finally, the last kind of area of modification showing the existing mechanical equipment on top of the roof. So now going to the proposed with befores and afters. We'll go into details of each of these areas, but here you can see in plan the existing pocket doors and stairs and the proposed modification of reconfiguring those pocket doors to swing doors and moving 2 stairs inside. And the main reason for this is to be more code compliant for egress. And then the same for our second means of egress here, where today there's a window, changing that to doors for egress. So the existing square elevation, this is calling out the proposed changes. So we'll dive in a little bit more here to the entrance. Here you can see where the rooftop mechanical is changing, then added security cameras, and then the window replacement and repair is being handled at staff level. So a zoom in of the existing, and I'm just going to go to the second one where we've removed the canopy to have a better understanding. So our proposal here is to reconfigure these doors to swing doors, a glass light in the center panel, and then you'll see in the detail to have a fixed transom, and the swing doors really just be rectangular below. And then additionally, replacement of the sign from India House for one Hanover. So this is just a detail showing really the modification of the existing doors to make a swing, the additional light, and where the proposed modification to make a non-movable transom. And then lastly, you see to accommodate the screen door, we're proposing replacing the banister or the handrail and moving its connection point so the swing door can operate. This is just a detail of those same modifications. And then just additional details of the existing. And then proposed kind of the lower level, so there's a 1-inch style to support the swing doors. And then the new configuration of the bronze handrail. A section. And then just showing, the details of the door, which is the same door reconfigured. And then here is the existing sign. It's a 9-inch high sign with gold paint, and it's been replaced over the years. And the existing photos, there's a kind of a joint line where you can see it's been removed. So the proposal is to use the same fair font, same height, and basically remove that piece of stone with a new one Hanover sign with the same gold paint. Then moving to the existing east elevation, and then proposed. So at staff level, all the windows are being reviewed. But basically, it's just going to go back. There's kind of patchwork of windows over the years, so it's unifying the windows. But then I think more importantly is the mechanical. We have an overlay coming up, and we also have mock-ups. But so at this end, we're condensing the mechanical units, but they're getting taller. And the center bay, we're actually reducing the height of them, and then this third bay, they're saying approximately the same. Then the existing condition on Stone Street, and then proposed, so same with windows. And here we're going to go into some details of these 3 doors. So this is on the left, the existing configuration, which had been modified for an ADA lift. And so we're replacing, but upgrading that, but keeping the ADA lift the same, and then updating the egress through this proposed new door. And so here you can see the proposals to the exterior elevation. So from the existing here, the only modification is removing of the roll down garage door. The center bay here is where we're proposing the new doors. We're removing the sill that has been added. And this would be in the same style and pattern and color of the existing doors. And then here, this is the existing door. And so this is just a planned detail of the movable window to a wood door with the same detailing as the historic doors. And then again, the section showing the removal of the sill and then the door section. And then lastly, moving to the roof, where the existing equipment is basically on 2 large steel I-beams or dunnage here. So it's these 3 units. And so the proposal is to replace those with more condensed but taller units. So this is a comparison of the existing profile of any of the mechanical on the roof and proposed. So you see here the center bay is slightly reduced, while the bay on the right, or the bay closest to Hanover, of course, are slightly taller. And then here are some mock-up photos. This one taken from the east. Here, just zooming in, so you can see here that the footprint isn't as large, so we're actually reducing the footprint, but it is getting higher. And then moving into the park. And then a little bit closer from the corner, this is somewhat of an elevated view. And then finally in the park, these were taken 2 days ago, so obviously it's seasonal with the trees. There would be a little bit more visibility. So that's it right there. And so that's what we had of our proposed modifications.
Hey, well, do I have to go first? I think there's someone else who wants to go first. I'll say I think I'm okay with this. Since you have left it on this slide, the mechanical stuff. I'm not bent out of shape about that. I don't know what everybody else's feelings are about that.
Do we have any community input? Does anyone want to speak from the community?
Well, I think we should look at the front elevation first. There's some issues there.
Yeah.
Do we have input from community?
You have 3 members of the neighborhood on the board here, Vicky.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Is there anyone else?
Do we have a quorum? Can I just ask that? Did we determine that?
Yes, we have.
Okay, great. All right.
I don't see anyone on the attendees list with their hand raised, nor do I have anyone who's messaged me privately to opine on this.
Maybe we should start with the residents around this building that are on the community board.
Roger had a question. Roger.
Go, Roger.
Well, this is as it's been pointed out, this is an incredibly important building to our community. I think, if I'm not wrong, they said it was designated in '65. That front elevation is just really, really important, and I would encourage us not to allow such modifications. Thank you.
We can ask some questions.
Can we see that? That's the proposed. Can we see the? Is there a way to see proposed against existing?
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay, now you got it right.
Can I ask, Dryden?
Yes.
Why exactly are you proposing doing away with the pocket doors? Isn't that the original? Wasn't that the original design intent? And
yes, it's basically to make it more code. It's not 100% code compliant, but for egress to make it more code compliant.
I'm sorry, so if you swing the doors out and you're right at the stair, how could that be better? You don't see the stair. I've never seen, doors on a building like this where you open the doors and the stair is right there. There's usually a landing, I don't know, 2 feet or something. So when you come out of the stair, you step on something that is solid. You can see and orient yourself before you go down the stairs. I mean, I would have thought this was a tripping hazard like none other. So why are you changing this to meet code?
Because we're for the egress, the doors to swing out for egress.
Oh, I see. What are you changing the use here?
It's a private club
But-
today. Sorry.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
It's a private club today, and it would be office.
Oh, you're going to convert it to an office.
Yes.
No.
Oh.
So I think we just have to say, look, the Stone Street access, and Stone Street is a better access than destroying this very important historical frontage that has been with us for a long time.
I think you would find the 3 community members would agree with you, Roger.
Okay, so that makes it very simple then. We're just asking that they keep the non-original but significantly historic doors, period.
Yes.
Well, as
Okay.
pocket doors. No, Jason.
As pocket doors, exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
well, wait,
I
are we just saying to keep them? Aren't they? We want them just as they are, not taken
we
out.
want them as pocket doors, correct? And I'd
Are
like
they
to
historic
dig into
doors?
this.
Are they historic doors to remain?
They're
are they
historic
historic?
replicated doors.
Yes.
They're historic replicated doors. Okay,
Yes.
thanks for saying that. Go, Joe.
And I understand that. Well, anyway, I wanted to dig into this a little bit further. As a club, in the use as a club, in thinking through this, the pocket doors, I would assume, would have been open during the daytime. There would have been possibly an attendant or something in the vestibule. Do we have any photographs of the interior doors just inside, just inside that vestibule?
It's not in this presentation, but we can provide them afterwards. But you can see
Well, and
mock-ups.
so I guess my issue with this is if that was the design intention and the intention of how the space was to be used to get around egress, are the interior doors insulated and up to code? It looks from the plan that they swing outward, and so to get around this code issue, you could simply leave the pocket doors open during the daytime and close them at night for security purposes when nobody's inside. Is that correct?
Yes, we have discussed that, and so yes, that's I hear your recommendation.
Okay.
I have
But
one question, if I may. When was India House put on? What year was it? How long has it been called India House?
1865, I think.
That's what I thought. Why does it need to be changed?
It was.
It doesn't.
Sorry, it was originally, and at least this picture of the Cotton Exchange, and this was then headquarters for W.R. Graham, and then here is the India House when you see it in 1939. So it's changed twice.
Well, why does it have to change again?
I think it's related to its new function.
Yeah, Susan, thanks for raising that. That's just a commercial. To me, it just feels like you're commercializing it, and I don't see a reason why it would change from India House, especially with as long as it's carried that name. It's a commercialization of it.
Well, we can just say
I think we've got a classic case here of a commercial tenant wanting to say, I want to ignore history and the heritage of Lower Manhattan, and I want to promote my business. And if that's the case, there's plenty of places in Midtown and elsewhere. I feel we are the heart of New York City, and India House is one of the hearts of New York City. And we should fight very, very hard not to let commercialization say, oh, that was then and we want something different now.
Thank you, Roger. I agree 100%. This is
I actually have to disagree on that one. I think Cotton Exchange was a commercialization of it. And what was 1907? It became what?
The W.R. Grace Company.
W.R. Grace was a commercial name. I don't know anything about India House. I'm very much inclined to keep the entrance as it is, but as far as changing out the signage with making it almost less commercial by using the address. I don't know anything about India House as far as the club is concerned and what it stood for. So.
Jason?
Well, on that, I'm just kind of in the middle. I would kind of be like a guy that says, if something's been there for a whole part of it's been being there, it can be considered a historically significant period,
yes.
which in this case, India House qualifies it for that. I'd like to just as well leave it there, because that's how historically significant it is, even though it's not original. And then on the matter of the door, I'm in favor of keeping the door to be exactly the same as we see in all these pictures that I see on here, because again, the door seems to be there, whether it's newly made to look like old 1907, it's been there the whole time. So we shouldn't change that one bit. And then I said I was okay with the mechanical part. And then isn't there this railing aspect? And I don't know where I stand on that, but
Well, the railing won't have to change if the doors are staying.
Yeah.
okay. So that's where I stand on
Yeah.
that whole thing.
So just going back to cultural landmarks, you know, I appreciate, you know, it was something, it went to W. Grace, but India House is something that's been part of most of the preservations generation since the 70s. I just make an analogy. For those of us that remember El Teddy's as the mafia restaurant on West Broadway, that was there from the 70s, and many of us went there in the 80s. One of my biggest regrets as chair of the Landmarks Committee was to allow El Teddy's to be taken away and replaced by a non-consequential residential building. And we fought very, very hard to make that a cultural landmark. Back there in the early 80s, well, it was late 80s, we couldn't get it away. And I just think that we need to be very mindful of saying, oh, forget the history, promote the future, because we are all about the history of the South Street Seaport, financial district, Tribeca, and all the rest of it. And we could get cut and die by 1,000 cuts. And there's a way around this. People can find ways. You go to San Francisco, you go to Rome, you go to Paris, you go to London. You see how people respect the heritage of the community they're moving in. And I hope we could try and do that here for this particular building, because we're losing so many of them.
I agree, Roger. I mean, to take away, you know, a name that, you know, has been there for a long time, but also a name that's just, you know, kind of a lovely name, and replace it with a street address, really? Just put a plaque, 100, I mean, 1 Hanover, and that's it. If there was a purpose or a reason that was, you know, incredibly important, we could debate it. But just to put your address, ridiculous reason. So
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Vicky, I agree. And I'm reading about the history of it, of India House.
Yeah, I
India
am as well now.
Foundation was formed in 1914 as a place for a meeting place for those of interests and business. I'm not articulating it well. Those with business interests. Our history is the cocoa exchange, the cotton exchange, all of the various exchanges. The India House formed in 1914 for all of those people to come together. It is a big part of our history, that name.
Yes.
And I think it's ridiculous to cast that aside just for an address.
Exactly.
Thank you, Megan. I completely agree. It's iconic as part of our community. And for those of us who live in this community right there on the park that abuts India House, it would be a shame. I personally would be devastated.
Yes.
It's sad, very sad to be even considerate.
Right.
Yeah, I just want, Joel from the community board, just want to chip in. Thank you, everybody. So there's something about history and the India House. When you walk through those two majestic doors, it is like you're walking through a different time zone. It's just a different part of history. There's something very, very special about that. And then inside, there's another set of doors. And of course, there's a big fat Buddha that everybody rubs his stomach for good luck. There's a statue there as well. So it's just, it's tradition to walk through those two doors during all these decades when there were private parties and weddings and all kinds of different type of events going to that building. It's the front of that building is a postcard that should not be lost in history. And I just want to say something else about the back of the building where you're looking to make some improvements also. Right next door to where you're doing that, William Bradford has his printing press, Yellow Journalism. That's where it was born. That's how iconic these buildings are. Right next to your openings where William Bradford had his printing press. Think about that. And I just want to say one other thing. 3 Hanover Square was known as the Cotton Exchange. Down the block is the Cocoa Exchange. And the India House was known for coffee and tea. So those were the 3 buildings in that area that made up that whole trading area. So to lose that, to put just 1 Hanover Square is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you.
We agree. All right. Bryden?
I guess I'd also like to hear your opinion on the 64 Stone Street modification.
Existing against proposed on one sheet for us? Okay. I'll go first. Existing is on the left. And so you're proposing more doors.
Yes.
And some modifications. Okay, so now I'm going to just go, well, what of this is historic, recreated historic, or recreated historic non-original? And what, or is it all not like something we would see in the tax lot photo or something?
I'll just go to this historic photos.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Or this is current designation.
Designate. Yeah, so that's not really what's there.
I don't think this was as well documented as
Right. It's just the back of it. It's actually the back, the real back of it.
Yeah.
We can stay on that elevation, the existing and proposed, no?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And no, the draw. Yeah, the draw.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So are those glass panes? The narrow. Are you producing all wood, or is this glass panes? I can't tell on the sides, especially.
It's all wood. Today, the existing is all wood, and really this is a more back of house entrance. So there's egress behind here.
Why are the transoms in different lineup?
The one on the left and the one on the right are existing, and so we've aligned it with the one on the left.
I don't see, like, I guess I'm not, am I missing what the reason for these changes are? Is it for access, ADA access?
So this door here is
Yeah.
today 80, and we're leading that. This is bringing all the new electrical is coming in, and this is our egress, so it's new egress.
Okay, so you got to get egress and new electrical. What do you mean by new electrical? What does that mean? It's like a fake door?
No, sorry, I was looking to my teammate. I'm gonna have to. I'm not as involved with those details, so I'll have to get back to you on that.
But it doesn't. When I look at existing and proposed, I'm missing the glaring difference on the rightmost bay. Is there much of a difference?
Oh, it's only removing the garage door today, so there's no difference.
So now we're talking about the work on this facade being changes to the center bay only.
Yes.
And then your mechanism is to basically replicate something between what's on the left and what's on the right.
Yeah, closer to the left. That's the level entry.
And so that's why you have your transom selected to be. Okay, so I'm fine with that personally. Who's next?
I guess we're good with this, right?
Well, I'm trying to see I got to zoom in here on my PDF to see
Yeah,
the sizes
zooming
here.
in. That's how I'm kind of looking at it. I think what we got to all this meaning is the middle door is being changed. So that's where you start. And then it's not being changed much, except that you're missing, you're getting some removal of what we think is original infill there.
You mean where my cursor is?
Yeah.
No, that was non-historic.
non-historic.
Yeah, I think it's the same non-historic.
And then the designation photos show it as non-historic at that point, and so then after that, there's nothing further back. And
What, I'm sorry, non-historic to what date?
well, okay, right, you should say non-original.
Non-original.
We only know it from whatever these 1980 these 1980 LPC designation photos, right?
Yeah, I have a paper copy so I don't make everyone dizzy going back to that exact slide. I mean, it's not original, but when it was photos we have are from when it was designated as part of the historic Stone Street district. So here you can see, even since 1996, this has been cut out. So obviously, these two bays, and then this was brick infill with a grate below, and then this was a level entry.
Okay, so you're gonna restore this. It's gonna be painted wood, right?
Painted wood, and it's the color will basically be to match the existing color.
Okay.
And I'm just missing the center door here. Why is it so why is it being divided?
Oh, it has to be an egress now. It's a window here, but an egress in the new
Let me
scheme.
go back to the plan.
Yeah. You want the plan or the elevation?
Yeah, the element.
I want to look at the plan to understand why it's being divided, why the door is being divided as it is with I wouldn't call it a side light, but a side door.
Because you
And
need
is that
18
operable?
on the pull side of a door.
Right.
It's also assuming that the move in and move out would happen up the stairs here.
I see there's stairs in there. Okay.
Jason, we're good with this now. We understand, right?
I'm good with it,
Yeah.
and Gerald's working on getting good with it, and then after.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, so who else wants to? Who else wants to get a nibble here, or we're done? Okay, so and then everybody's okay with the mechanical, right? Or I was okay with it.
I mean, it does have some kind of acoustical louver or something so that people around you are not looking and listening to endless noise, right?
Correct. And the coloration it's a painted metal, similar to what's there today, because as it's background buildings, we think that color works well.
Okay.
Is that going to add any more noise to the roof?
No. I can.
What I asked, it's going to be in an enclosed acoustical louver enclosures to contain the noise.
Okay, and one other question: the work you're doing on the side street with your new egress.
Yes.
Those buildings are extremely old surrounding you. I'm not sure how fragile they are. These are old federal brick buildings. Are you taking into consideration vibration and everything else that's not going to harm any of these buildings at all?
I think that's a good point, and that's something that we'll work with the contractor and owner to make sure.
Oh, you mean literally adjacent to you? I'm sorry. Yeah, is this adjacent to you, a party wall condition?
No, it was in terms of, so to our left was originally these were separate buildings, but in India House, the ones to the left and the right are also part of India House.
All right, so I think that I think by law, you'll have to do vibration monitors, but Jason, we should put that in our resolution perhaps.
Yeah, no, it's important to put that in the resolutions. There's what's called a 10 section 5, and there has to be monitoring ties, and those have to be integrated into the contract, and the contractor must not start work until they've agreed to those conditions.
Yes.
So we can monitor the disturbance to these historic structures.
I agree.
Those buildings are 150 years old that are adjoining on both sides.
Right.
They have to comply, Joe. We're going to put it in our resolution.
Right. And also,
yeah, well, I know.
No, the city mandates this. The city mandates it, and there are
But
very.
the city doesn't monitor it, Vicky,
No,
sadly.
we're gonna, somebody has to
Exactly.
monitor it.
It's a third party, and it is done. Well, it is something that we do everywhere, all over the city. We just have to mandate it. It is mandated. We will double mandate it in this case.
Yeah, I mean, these buildings are from the 1800s.
Right. No, the city knows. That's why these vibration monitors and third-party companies are required to be there, and someone reads this, and it really, there's an effort to do.
But there's examples, sadly, Vicky, there's example after example where, unfortunately, they go too deep, too fast, and then buildings have to be propped up. My old apartment building on Warren Street is going to fall down as soon as they take the scaffold down that supports it. And we got to get ahead of this stuff.
That's why I'm
They
suggesting.
need a structural engineer to do an independent analysis of what the damage is going to be. I mean, this is what was going on in Florida. You need to make sure that there's an independent contractor who's a structural engineer, does his due diligence and writes a report and blesses it. Because I don't trust the city and I don't trust contractors.
And we need to be a party to that. The community board needs to be a party to those analyses and those reports, because everybody else is motivated to say, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay," and so we've had too many examples of where this goes wrong. So I think in the resolution we need to say we need to be a party to this monitoring because of the importance of the historic district. And I think 3 Hanover Square can also be a party to it too.
Yeah, and the building where, again, the printing press, William Bradford, is a landmark building, so that's the damage what's going to happen to that. So, yes, Roger, we need to be in the loop like everybody else, but especially Landmarks, which does a great job of oversight. I think this really has to be on your, on your TV screen here.
It's a DOB oversight, not Landmarks, but we definitely agree with you, and we will put it in the resolution.
So we need the applicant to agree, Vicky, that the Community Board 1 is part of the oversight review board, because people who are living in 3 Hanover are dramatically affected by this, and we've seen too many other examples over the years where other buildings have said, okay, we'll rely on DOB, we'll rely on everybody else, and unfortunately those reliances have not been respected.
Okay.
That part of the resolution. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say?
Roger, just real quickly on that, are you talking about between Greenwich and on Warren, between Greenwich and West Broadway in the hotel?
Well, there's many examples, unfortunately. There's sadly very, very many examples.
Well, anyway,
we know
I don't
you
mean
want
to
to do it right.
digress, but the monitoring is definitely, I would agree with what you're saying about that, because I'm
Good.
watching several of the properties around here where you were discussing being monitored, and they've had issues. So.
That's right. So we just need to learn from our lessons, and I think the developers and owners would respect that. They don't want to destroy these buildings. They just don't know that they contract with people who, don't think about this. So we just need to learn from the lessons and acknowledge that it's a collaborative effort.
Dryden, I don't want to belabor this, but can we go to the proposed roof plan as well? And I noticed that there's an existing skylight two existing skylights on the left, but only one on the right. Is that an oversight or?
No, that's it's not visible next year, but it's being removed. The one.
So there's a skylight being removed. Yeah. Does that give an opportunity to drop some new dunnage in and move all this all this mechanical work further away from the line of sight?
That's something that we can investigate. We just don't have the structural report for that yet.
That
Okay,
was,
I think you should consider it.
yeah, I think that should be put in the resolution, Jason.
Yeah.
I wasn't clear and I wanted to ask if anybody had concerns about visibility. I didn't understand.
Yeah,
if
well,
there's gonna
now
be
we
more
do,
visibility
yes.
of mechanicals, and I'd like that clarified.
Well, he had the mock-up. I mean, I personally, I saw the shot. To me, it didn't dwarf over, if they need to put mechanical systems to make the building last another 100 years, what I'm seeing isn't so egregious of a grab of the, that's a zoomed in shot. And I think that if they did the mock-ups, I'm personally okay with that type of visibility. It's not ideal, but it's also fake to think that they could get it any lower. They come a certain height and they have to be a couple feet off the existing roof on dunnage. So
Right, but they're also removing a skylight and providing more interior space through the roof plan. So
okay, can you bring that roof
yeah.
so I can also look at that, you guys, one more time?
I mean, I've been through this with landmarks. We had to move a bulkhead 10 feet further in just because they had gone. It was up on Riverside Drive, and they went all the way out to the river.
Where's
bank
the
to
skylight being removed in this drawing? Can someone
so
say?
you gotta
One right there. It says existing skylight. You see?
Yeah, I
go
see.
to the right on the proposed, Jason.
It says proposed existing skylight.
There's an existing skylight to the north and to the top of and then one to the south of the page.
I'm not seeing it, but I trust you guys.
Can
You
you
see
see
where
my
it is?
cursor?
Yeah, you see that?
Yeah, that. Oh, okay. I see. Okay, I'm sorry. It's so big. Yeah. Okay.
I have one question. There's no mock-up on the building at the moment for on the roof, is there, sir?
Yes.
No, it was, well, this was on Monday. I think it's been removed.
Pardon me?
I said, I think it's already been removed. This was done on Monday.
But how can you remove it without landmark seeing it?
It's not there.
Right, so you can remove it
Look,
until landmarks.
it's not there.
Yeah. Well, we'd have to redo it. We'll have to redo it.
Landmarks has to see it, so you removed it prematurely. I'm sorry, the entire interior of India House is getting gutted, right?
Not gutted, but it is being modified. Like the grand stair is not being gutted or but it is significant modification to the interior.
So
Are you taking out the fireplaces? Are you taking out the fireplaces?
Some of them, but not all of them.
Which fireplaces are being removed?
The ones on the upper floors, the ones on the lower floors are staying on the main level.
But the grand stair is used to have one of these skylights, and now it's being removed.
Yeah, the grand stair is the skylight is staying above the grand stair.
So the existing skylight that's to remain is above the grand stair?
Correct.
That's great, thank you. Right, so if
Are
you
you?
I think we should note all these things in the resolution because, this is a very historic structure, and to change its use so radically, I think it's very important to say the central staircase will be continued to be illuminated by an original skylight, and the less important or the tertiary fireplaces are being removed on the third floor, because we've seen too many times where we go in and unfortunately that's not what gets executed.
Is the skylight being removed original to the building?
I will have to.
Please find out. Thank you. Okay. Yes, it is.
Well, it's original, Jason, to the 1860s
Yeah, so that's fine.
I
existing
don't know if it's,
structure. Yeah.
yeah.
That's fine. So, okay, got it.
Are you putting in a new elevator?
No.
So just that small elevator is going to stay in place.
Yes.
Are you keeping the kitchen?
No.
The kitchen's going.
Yes.
What about the bar?
The bar is going. Yes, the bar is going.
So the blue room is going, right?
Yes. And the interior of this wasn't landmarked.
I'm just getting a feel for what it's going to look gutted. Okay, fireplaces, no bar, same elevator, the skylight. Okay. Just take a sledgehammer.
But I think to the applicant, whilst they aren't designated, as you can see, we feel very strongly about this building. So as a way to get our approval, we'd love for you to at least, recognize interiorly the importance of the key elements of the structure. And it sounds like you're doing it, but that's why we should put it in the resolution.
Yeah, I mean, our view is really that the historic stair is probably the most impressive importance, and so, we're modifying that to bring a handrail up to the correct height, but otherwise leaving that intact with the skylight.
So we should put all those things in the resolution, Jason.
I'd love to do that. I'm going to do that.
I have one more question. Are you applying for a liquor license?
I will have to consult with the owner, but so I don't know for the office.
You don't know if you're applying for a liquor license?
Well, as an office user, I would have to consult with the owner how they plan to operate it.
So we should put that in the resolution as well, Jason, because this is another significant aspect. The liquor license at Hanover Square, at Hanover Indian House, has always been a point of much debate.
BYO. No, I'm joking. Okay, so we're going to put the liquor license info in there. We wish we knew that if they were applying for a liquor license. Please tell us. Is that, yeah, okay.
Well, I think it should be a condition of the approval that we want to know what their intentions are of renewing or applying for a liquor license.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I note that. So
Jason,
yes.
how about if I write this resolution?
Oh, that would be terrific.
I know, I figure it's a big one, and
Yeah, I love that about you.
the other one, so
Wonderful.
I'll pick it up and then we'll circulate for input.
Okay, I took some notes on it anyway, and I'll share those with you. And
I did too, so.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Jason, one
When's
other
the
question
applicant
here is
going to? Excuse me. When's the applicant going before LPC?
We're looking to go mid-November.
Okay.
So one other question, Jason, and the committee really is looking into this further and understanding the history of it, which now I have a much better understanding of India House in particular. Are there any historic plaques on the exterior of this explaining,
No.
to the community or visitors the significance of this property? And if not, can we get one of those in the resolution? Especially if this is becoming now a more of an office building, and I don't know what kind of office building and how open it'll be to the public, but
Is it on the National Registry? Did we ask that question? Is that
Yes, it is. It is. It's on the
Okay.
National Register from the 1960s.
So there must be a plaque for that part somewhere, or usually there is.
But it's down and it's down
on the other
underground
side.
as you go down in Harry's. Yeah.
All right, let's bring that up. Let's bring that up to the above ground section if possible. But okay. So what is this? A negative? This is a negative overall negative resolution.
Well,
I mean, I'm
Jason,
just.
might we suggest to the owner, the applicant, that they hold over and come back to us? I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. Rather than reject it with all the, conditions, could we ask the applicant to consider our comments and come back to us next meeting?
Consider them asked. Guys, what do you say?
When's your next meeting?
Sometime in December.
Well, the next meeting is November 4th.
Oh, November. We're in October. Sorry. Yeah.
A couple of weeks away, yeah.
Yes, because I think also, for instance, the rooftop mechanical, his landmarks is still trying to decide if that's going to be reviewed at staff level only.
Our meeting is November 4th, Jason.
Yeah.
Terrific. So we'll see you then. Please come back.
All right. Thank you for
So
the
Jason, we still need to write a resolution to Landmarks that the applicant agreed to defer their hearing and to come before us first in November the 4th.
I'm going to write that one. Agreed to defer the hearing.
Yeah. Till November.
To come back. Yeah. To come back to us in November.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
We gave you an easy one, Vicky.
Yeah. Send me that one so I can have a sample for any future ones of those.
Seen this before, so
terrific. Okay, so let's I'm gonna make a motion that we close that up, right?
Second.
Good vote.
Yeah. Okay, Jason.
I'm a yes.
Okay. Yeah. Quorum. Yeah, we have quorum. Jason. Okay. Vicky.
Yes.
Mark. Mark.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Gerald.
Yes.
Liz.
Yes.
Megan.
Yes.
Farah.
Yes.
Chow. Roger.
Yes.
Okay, it's Chow.
And they get beaten up by this guy that doesn't.
Chow.
That means yes.
And then you had an opportunity.
Oh boy.
I need him to
Right.
say
He's not him. That's not him. That's someone else.
No, I was unmuted, and that's him speaking. But I think he's
He's having another conversation. Just say yes.
Chow, I'm giving you one more chance.
And then.
No. That's weird. That's happening. Oh, is Chow the last person?
He is, but I mean, I'll get back to him.
Okay, do that.
Why
Right,
don't you
he's
just
here.
email him?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll go and do that. But yeah, with all the votes in, yeah, the resolution passes, and the motion passes.
Okay, so we still have two more.
We still have two more.
Let's go. Who's next?
So the next presentation is for 71 Franklin, and we have James. I'm so sorry, I'm gonna mispronounce your last name. James Sicorn here with us. So we have up.
7173 Franklin, right?
Right.
And James, please spare us the history of all the cobbles that worked and lived around the neighborhood and all these things. Get right to the building, the property, okay?
James, are you there? I see your mic is unmuted.
Yes.
James?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Did you hear my speech about not giving us a whole history of
Yeah, I
Tribeca
promise,
East?
I promise.
Okay, terrific.
I promise to make this short.
You never know, so.
I know.
Okay.
Okay, so can you guys see my screen?
Not, yeah, yes, now we can. I can, yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to say one thing. I am presenting from the Cocoa Exchange, and I agree that the India House sign should stay, but I just wanted to get that in there. I didn't raise my hand during the meeting, but all right. So this project at 71 Franklin is a gut renovation of the interior. We previously got this approved in 2016. The owners wanted to put the construction on hold due to the pandemic, and now have decided to go back to the renovation. And in that time, the approval for landmarks lapsed. But also in that time, we decided to do much less aggressive or contemporary renovation. And you'll see in the next photos as I move through this. Just to start, here are historic photos of 71 Franklin. You can kind of see it's got a painted wood facade with kind of a hodgepodge of infill. And it did have a cornice at the frieze that's supported by these cast iron columns. So here's just a quick overview of our of what we plan to do. We're getting windows approved at staff level. They're going to be replaced with historic windows that resemble the historic condition, but they will be double glazed. We're also modifying the storefront, which I'll go through in detail on the next couple of pages. That also will be a painted wood facade. Although one of the reasons why I'm here to present to you is that we do need to remove part of the platform that exists to provide at-grade egress to the building, or an egress or an exit. And I'll also go over that in the following slides. But on the rooftop, we are proposing the same volume as we had before, which is just a one-story volume with a bulkhead on top. We do have mechanical equipment going up here. There's a high parapet, so you won't really see the equipment. It's not on dunnage, it will be on pads. And this addition is faced in a thin brick. So just quickly, I just wanted to show you that other buildings on the block do have also rooftop additions. The Shiguban cast iron building to the left is actually 2 stories, but all of the others are roughly 1 story. And there is this one property that will be brought up to the same height as the adjacent buildings. So here you can kind of see the demolition of, we're replacing the windows. Most of the infill will go, and as I said, the existing platforms in front of one of the center bays will also be removed. In its place, we're providing new infill. Like I said, it's painted wood. We do need some louvers, and we're planning to put those louvers within the transoms that are below these arches and directly above the retail entrances. But effectively, we're trying to clean up the storefront and just create this, bipartite design. So storefront windows flank are found at the easternmost and westernmost bays. We're reintroducing a decorative grille, and the 2 center bays will be for, the left one will be for residential entry, and the one to the right will be for our egress out of the building. Here are just some quick images of what the existing condition looks like. We are not changing the cast iron, we're stripping it and repainting it. Here are just conditions of the existing painted wood windows. And in this image, you can see from this vantage point, you do see our mock-up. And this, in the interest of full disclosure, this mock-up image was taken from 2014 because we just got approval to reinstall the mock-up this week. So construction of that mock-up will be happening over the next week. or week and a half. Here are some images of the existing condition. Right now, these platforms have diamond plate over most of them, although the platforms that are to the west do have vault glass. And our plan is to really just cover those with the diamond plate as is prescribed by landmarks. The center image, you can see this decorative grille, which we will recreate in the easternmost bay. And all of these windows come up right to the cast iron facade, except for the existing entry, which is set back. And we're going to bring that forward so it aligns with all of the other windows. Again, this is just a bigger image or elevation of what we plan to do, and you can see we are removing this platform here to provide ag-grade access. And you can see that we've brought the doors forward a bit from the existing condition. Here is a more detailed view of the easternmost bay. We've got the decorative grille, we've got our painted wood windows and transom. All of the painted wood will be in a very dark gray, and to contrast, we're going to paint the cast iron in a lighter gray. This is a blow up of the residential entry in one of the center bays, and the glass in the residential entry will have a fluted glass, but again, it will be, a painted wood door and transom. This is one of the, just a detail of the retail entry. It has louvers in the upper portion of the transom, but it has a secondary transom, which helps to modulate the proportion and also makes the door less tall and unwieldy. Some details. Louvers to the right, you can see some of our moldings. They're quite prominent and thick because we just want to emphasize the detail around the frames and the windows. And here is a rendering of the storefront. It's much more calm compared to what was existing. All painted wood, and you can see the platform that's being removed for egress entry or exit. This is just another view. These louvers are in the high transom, so partially obscured by the fire escape, which we're keeping, but in the easternmost retail visible. So moving on, this is our what we're proposing for our rooftop addition. It's faced in a thin brick, as you can see here. We have a 15-foot setback, and there is a steel frame that surrounds steel windows and doors and a transom. The rail that's on the front edge of this deck is steel and cable rail, and you'll see planters behind that as well as concrete pavers. The facing of the bulkhead will be in stucco, as will the sides of this rooftop addition. Here's a detail of what the facade will look like. Section through this protruding frame and steel and glass window, as well as the brick and the coping stone at the parapet. This is another view of the rooftop addition. In straight on. Here, an oblique view. And these are images from the street, and you can see up close, you do see the rooftop addition. That's because 75 Washington is so much shorter. And it still features from a little bit further down the street. And this is a view looking from Franklin Alley. You do see it from there as well, because it's a, you know, quite, it's a view corridor that, you know, is unavoidable. And once you reach the corner, the addition starts to disappear because there are other buildings that kind of come into view. That's basically it. I mean, we do have some additional windows that we're doing on the rear and the side facades, but those are not visible at all from the street. There are 2 lot line windows we're adding to the west facade. That's basically it. You guys have comments? I wanted to keep it short so that you had time to discuss. Hello?
So I want to say that that is a very complete and good presentation, and I thank you for that. And I'm glad you stopped on the storefront, because for me, I think that's the most successful little intervention you did here. You're doing everything right. So I'm inclined to be okay with the removal of some platformed areas. I wanted to ask, is the existing storefront, how old do we think that is in any of those bays? Is any of it from, you know, well, what do you think the answer to that is?
I know that some of the westernmost bays were original from 1940, but we can't tell from before that, to be honest.
Would you, in light of that, would you guys be willing to do a paint analysis of certain areas, like the cast iron columns, any of the earliest known storefront infills?
Right, absolutely. And
windows?
I did want to add that actually this facade, or the grillage that exists, was found in the a cast iron manufacturer who made a lot of the cast iron work.
Oh, it's in the Cornell. It's in the book. It's in the book, you're saying?
Yeah, it's in the book. So
okay,
actually,
so
I can go back and show you, or refer to that, because I think
that's not the Cornell guide's not going to say what color it was.
No, not the color, but the infill. If I do recall. I mean, this.
I see. Well, unlikely that it's from the stuff from 1850, whatever this is, because this is earlier than, right? So, but I'm asking if you could consider doing this paint analysis, do it for the windows upstairs too.
Right, absolutely.
And I had a question of what, I know it sounds like it's not subject to our review, but what are you doing? I know the facade to be very, very in very bad shape. Are you doing a thorough marble restoration?
We are cleaning the facade to the best of our ability, and spot restoring where we need to, and that's based on the recommendations of our facade consultant.
Okay. Another question. Are you putting a scissor stair in the building, or 2 means of egress? So you can't remove the fire escape.
Exactly.
I see.
That was one of the concessions. Originally, when we got the 2016 approval, we were removing the fire escape, but now, as a cost-saving measure, we're keeping the fire escape and just adding 1 egress stair to the building inside.
Wow. Okay. I know I remember seeing this in 2016. I'm seeing you did a good thorough display of the view corridors. I'm a little bit, definitely please get that mock-up up again, because you really need to have it up when you see us technically.
Right.
So so that oblique angle there that it doesn't bother me so much, especially now that we can see the Shigoro Ban one right next to it. So you kind of get lucky with that. And that's it for me. What are you doing with the lot line windows? Making more of them or keeping them the same?
We're removing 2 and adding 2. So.
And will those
altogether,
2 be visible from the street, or you're doing that at staff? Okay, great. So you're doing that at staff. That's it for me. Who wants to go next? Okay. All right. So I will speak for everyone in that we can write an approval, a resolution to approve of pretty much everything here. Well, everything. I don't see anything that we're objecting to. I feel like nobody else is here.
I know you're here.
We're here, Jason. We're here.
Oh, okay.
We're here.
So
Quiet.
this has nothing to do with the actual. This has to do with the presentation. My comment here and now and that is, my Adobe is hung up, so I can't actually go through. I'm only seeing it on the small screen, and it makes it very difficult. I'm just suggesting, and I have to remember to do this myself, is to send low resolution versions of PDFs, especially ones that are heavy with architectural renderings and hatches and all the rest of it. Please. Other than that, very good presentation.
Thank you.
Is that an apartment at the rooftop you're adding?
Yeah, it's all residential rentals, actually.
So you're converting, this is a multifamily residential now?
Yeah, so we're just maintaining the same occupancy. It's retail at the ground floor and then residential at the top, rentals.
And then a palace on top, right?
Yeah, that a penthouse, yes.
Okay. All right. Jason, we're good? If you guys don't have any other questions, then we can either vote or move on, right? I don't know, is this a resolution here? Jason? All right. Jennifer, is this a resolution or?
Couldn't unmute myself. Yes, it's a resolution, and I
Okay.
lost you
There he
guys.
is.
Okay, so it's a resolution, and it sounds like it's a resolution recommending an approval of all of the items. I'm sorry, I lost you guys for a second there.
Thank you. Or
We can take a
vote, yeah, let's do a vote. A motion to vote.
second that.
Awesome. Okay. Jason,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Mark. Let's see.
Yes.
Okay. Susan,
Yes.
Gerald,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Megan. Okay, she's not here. Vera.
Yes.
Chow. Roger.
He had to leave.
You had to leave. Okay, let me double check to see. 1, 2, 6. Okay. The motion passes for this
How many
application.
people do we have on our committee? So we know what's the number we need to strike on a regular basis for quorum?
We have 11 members, and to reach quorum, we need 7 members. So right now we still have quorum, even though a couple of members dropped
Great.
off.
Okay. We can't really ask for more than that. That's 7 people out of 11. That's good. Okay. So thank you, Mr. Franklin Street.
So much. All right. Bye.
Okay,
Thanks.
Jason. And then the last presentation is for 123 Greenwich. We have a few representatives here with us. We have Jarrett Stoll along with Tom Lorax and Cass Sachelberg and Paul Taylor. So let me move all of them together.
123 Greenwich Street. Okay.
Oh, and just to make sorry, I should have mentioned this. Just to make note for 7173 Franklin, one of the representatives, Tyler Rump, he sent me a message just to give note that they're scheduled for a landmarks public hearing on November 9th.
Okay, and we're going to make sure that they put that mock-up up, right? How are we
Right.
going to do that? Okay,
So-
so somehow. Just through just till the end of, till I would say just, I mean, it's really supposed to be till the public hearing at landmarks, but let's get it up for our, till our board meeting, whatever.
Okay, so whoever's presenting for 123 Greenwich, you can unmute yourself and identify yourself as the speaker/presenter.
Hi, terrific. It's Cass Stackelberg from Higgins, Quays, Barth and Partners. Good evening, everybody. We'll try and be as succinct as we can. We've got an important project to share with you. Jarrett Stoll from our client, Soho House, is going to begin. I believe you've let him in, although he's now calling in. So I'm not sure if you can promote a.
Hey, Cass, how are you?
Oh, great, you're on. Okay, terrific. Great, and I'll let me pull up the presentation. Okay. Great. Okay. Everybody can see our presentation at this point?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, terrific. Great. Okay. So Jarrett will begin, and then I'll do a bit, and then Paul will take you through the design presentation.
Yeah, perfect. I'm not controlling the presentation, so please bear with me.
Okay.
And thank you, members of the board, for the time this evening. I know that we're extending past the allocated time, but I'll keep it brief. I am representing GH 123 Greenwich, which is actually acquiring the property as of tomorrow at 2 p.m. Yeah, I know this project has been in front of you over many, many years, and would really like to reintroduce sort of our new and revised concept here. One of the things to clarify is that the previous application, and I believe when it was in front of you, very much so revolved around the live music venue, which is not something we will be pursuing. The idea here in the current ownership group, or new ownership group, will really be looking to revitalize what is the historic trading floor with a series of restaurants. Current number is sitting at 6 restaurants that do sit on the trading floor, as well as a mezzanine restaurant. Additional programming throughout the building will include event space that will be limited between 75 and 150 people, and much more for conference style events, as well as a wellness and gym platform that will occupy the remainder of the tower. Over the years, this project has come across our desk as an ownership group and developer, and the opportunity to restore something that has been sitting there vacant since 2008 is an incredible opportunity for us. And really thank you for the time, and I'll pass it off to Kaz and Paul Taylor to walk through the details. And if there are any questions in regards to the ownership group, please do let me know.
Terrific. Thanks, Jared. So 123 Greenwich Street, as it's referred to by the address, is historically known as the New York Curb Exchange. It's a through-block building that has fronted on Trinity Place through to Greenwich Street. And the building was designated as an individual landmark in 2012. It was historically known as the Curb Exchange, then known as the American Stock Exchange. And the building's been vacant since 2009. And so the project that we're working together on with Jarrett is a comprehensive rehabilitation of the building where most of the work that's occurring is actually on the interior. There's an extensive program of repair and restoration work across both street facades, as well as removing all of this highly visible mechanical equipment, which we'll talk about a bit more later in the presentation. I'll also just mention that the building was built in 2 phases. The original portion on Greenwich Street, fronting onto Greenwich, was completed in 1921, and the portion fronting onto Trinity Place was completed in 1931. And the building really faces, the front of the building really faces onto Greenwich, onto Trinity Place. The front door is on Trinity Place, and we see this as the building's primary elevation. Looking at the just a site plan, you can see the building here, as I said, fronting onto Greenwich and onto Trinity. You can see its location here in Lower Manhattan. And overall, just a series of axonometrics, just to give you an overall sense of what the scope of work is on the exterior and what we'll be sharing with the Landmarks Commissioners at a public hearing. We're aiming for the November 9th public hearing. There's an existing axonometric on on the left and a proposed axonometric here on the right. This is Greenwich Street in the foreground. And so what you can see here on this low roof, the roof of the original portion of the building, is this incredible array of now abandoned, no longer functioning mechanical equipment. This includes 6 different cells, cooling towers, backup generators, and a 25-foot tall mechanical enclosure, all of which are highly visible from the street. The proposal is to remove all of that equipment, to build a setback 1-story addition that Paul will take you through in terms of its design and materiality, and to condense all the mechanical equipment onto the high roof here on the building, on the tower portion of the building. There's a very tall parapet which hides all the mechanical equipment from the east side, which has been a really essential part of this project. And flipping around the building, you can see the orientation of the mechanical equipment and then the treatment on the roof. Most of the facade work is repair and restoration. Paul will take you through some of the modifications at the base, including integrating new canopies across the ground floor on both the Trinity and Greenwich sides. Quickly, I'll go through some history. As I mentioned, the building was built in 2 phases. This is the original portion from the 1920s, and then this forecourt here was built on with the tower portion completed in 1931. Both portions designed by the architect Sterrett and Van Vleck. You can see the forecourt here. This is a view from Trinity Place with the elevated running here in the foreground, and then the backside of the historic original portion. This is the Greenwich Street side. Historically, there was a elevated train that ran up Greenwich Street as well. So the building was sandwiched between elevated trains. And then, as I said, in the early 1930s, the tower portion was completed, and these are views from the 1930s and 40s of that tall portion on Trinity Place. We've done a lot of research on the building, and I'll just show this because these are historic photographs illustrating the infill on the on the Trinity Place side. And what you'll see in a moment is that all the infill on the ground floor is non-historic, and we're using these photographs as a guide to both the materiality and the detailing of the new infill. These historically were nickel silver, and we're using that palette as part of the new infill that Paul will share with you just a moment. Some existing condition photographs. I'll go through these quickly. Suffice it to say that the building is not in great condition. There is an extensive program of restoration work that we're going to be working with the staff on, window replacement, steel window restoration. Wherever there are steel windows, they are all being retained, including the monumental windows that bring daylight into the trading hall, and then masonry repairs, cleaning and patching and repairs throughout, particularly the Greenwich Street side. The base of the Greenwich Street side, as I mentioned, there's infill across the base that is either non-historic or has been altered and historic or is in very poor condition. So we're proposing new infill at the ground floor, no modifications to the masonry openings themselves. I mentioned all the equipment up on the roof. This is an aerial view of the roof and some detailed photos on the roof. You can just see this sort of forest of mechanical equipment that is all being removed as part of this effort. And you can see here too, this 25-foot tall, it's almost a building in and of itself, right up at the parapet. All of that is being removed and the mechanicals are being condensed into a much smaller area up on the upper roof. And the tower portion, again, limestone clad. The original steel windows will be retained, and all the masonry will be cleaned. Some more detailed photographs. And the ground floor along Trinity Place, again, I mentioned that all the infill in these historic openings is non-historic and will be replaced based on those historic photographs. This is the back of the tower portion. Again, non-historic windows in these locations, a fire stair here, which will be infilling, and we'll share that some details on that in just a moment. And then the upper roof, I mentioned there's the roof of the tower. There is abandoned mechanical equipment up there right now. There's a very tall parapet on the east side of the roof at 11 feet tall, which does a great job of masking the new mechanical equipment up on that upper roof. So with that, I will have Paul take you through the proposed work, and then I'll share visibility studies with you in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Paul Taylor, Stonehill and Taylor Architects. In front of you, we have on the left the existing elevation and the proposed, which are basically, with regards to anything above the first floor, are more or less identical. And as Cass had mentioned, we're going to be doing a restoration program on the existing steel and glass windows, and with no real replacement expected. On the first floor on the left, on the existing, they are Herculite doors of, in the last 20 years. And on the right, we have taken what we can glean from the existing photographs and created sort of our I wouldn't say exact reproduction of them, but based upon the themes of those photographs. Cass had mentioned nickel silver. I'm not 100% sure we can actually buy exactly nickel silver, so it's going to be a white metal. It's close to nickel silver as we can get. Next. Okay, so this would be the main entrance, which is, as I said, based on that historic photograph. We have a 5-foot canopy that's within the 5-foot extension, from the face of the building. Next.
Continue through these and we'll come.
Yeah, what am I looking at here?
These are service tours. I think what we might do is go through these quickly, because we can always come back to them if you've got questions on some of the infill detail. But just given the hour, maybe we'll.
Right. So this is right. So exactly. So on the left, you can see the Herculite doors. On the right, the elevation. You saw the perspective, which is a lot more clear than these are. Next. These are the side doors. Okay, so for the Greenwich Street, on the left, you can see the profiles of the mechanical equipment, which is sort of shown in that darker gray. And on the right is our one-story extension, which we have basically taken the monumental arched windows and sort of taken that as a theme for the central portion of that rooftop addition.
But that addition is not visible, right? You mentioned, and it looked very set back.
It's very set back. We have very extensive
visualization
shots. You're gonna.
Yep.
But it's very set back nonetheless. That's not really the elevation. Right, it's set back.
You'll see it in plan.
Exactly.
In just a moment.
We have that well covered. Next. Okay, so the existing is shown on the top. It's the two right doors, which are the service doors, are sort of in bad condition to the extent whether they're historic or not. We have taken the profiles and proportions of them as being historic, and what we have done, the rest of it to the left is all contemporary, is to take the basic proportions of it and put in a steel and glass, entrances, and the windows. We were able to get a photograph which we pretty much have reproduced what we could see in terms of the divided lights. The color of the paint for both of the facades would be based on a forensic analysis of what the historic color was. So we haven't gotten back those results yet from that study, but that would be the intention. Next. Right. So this is the entrance on the Greenwich side. Again, taking the basic profiles from the service doors on the right, but of course putting in glazing because these are our entrances. Next. These are technical drawings, illustrating basically what that perspective showed.
The finish of the canopy is matching the finish of the windows. Is that what I'm getting? Cool.
Yeah, I think the underside of the canopy we intended to make a lighter metal color, so it wasn't kind of gloomy underneath.
And a majority, but
Yeah.
you guys
It's
spoke
all,
of
it's all going to be matching the historic color, whatever that turns out.
in the beginning. You spoke of this, I don't know, unpolished nickel or whatever you called it. Is that?
Yeah, that's on the Trinity side.
Other side. Got you. Okay.
Yeah, the Trinity side is sort of an Art Deco, 1931 aesthetic. So it's like two sides of a coin. They're very different. So nickel, silver, white metal, Trinity, and the painted finish on Greenwich. Yeah, so if you can kind of take us back to where we were.
Yeah.
Okay, so up on the roof, the left, as described, the mechanical equipment, the old kitchen duct running up. As Cass had mentioned, there's an opening into sort of an air shaft that runs down by the existing stair, which we would be putting matching windows in. And then we've got our addition, which we will be looking at in more detail. Next. This is the tower portion in the back, just an enlargement of that, which is basically just restoring what's there. Next. Next. Okay, yeah, so this is a basic building section. So on the left, you can see the mechanical equipment. And then on the right, you can see our addition. And as was just pointed out, our addition is well set back. Next. This is an enlargement of the same section. Next. Okay, so this is a plan view. The left shows the mechanical equipment, the right shows the addition.
Yeah, just to point out these, I'm
Tell
not sure
us-
if you can read this. This is
Hello, can you tell us a little bit about the program on this rooftop?
Yeah, Jared, do you want to take that?
Yeah, certainly. So the intention of the programming is to be an amenity space within the building. So we plan on having a rooftop bar and restaurant mainly enclosed, respecting the setbacks, as well as a rooftop pool.
So it's a restaurant, a bar?
Restaurant and bar, two separate spaces. You'll have a formal dining by reservation, and then you'll have a bar area that services all of the outdoor space.
And then you'll have terrace for seating, music, talking.
Correct, yeah, terrace for seating. We do not plan to have any live music up there. That's not within the programming. It will be amplified music, but all within the conditions of the liquor license, which we will obviously be going down the path to apply for.
Right, thank you. Sorry, and what's the inside of the building? Like 6 restaurants? So all the floors are just filled with different restaurants, or it's an open kind of industrial complex feeling?
So think of it as a re-inspired and imagined food hall taking over the ground floor and the trading floor, whereby we have multiple different concepts, different cuisines from across the world. And the idea is that it provides a different experience, everything from your sort of casual to a fine dining experience, and ranging everything from a diner experience all the way up to, you know, Asian and French cuisine.
Okay, thank you. So the rooftop addition is all these almost Romanesque like arches. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
let us,
Paul,
you
I'll
know
turn
what,
that one
can
over
we
to you.
get through, yeah, why don't we finish the presentation? Because I think we'll probably be able to answer most of these questions if we can just
Hey, thank
run through this, so Paul can address the design inspirations.
Okay.
Right, so the material is flat limestone, and the glazing would be steel and glass, again painted into the historic color. Again, the arches are based upon taking the sense of the arches from the trading room and bringing them up to the top. We've sort of created a symmetry where we have sort of the central element, which is a little bit taller, and then we have, you know, the suppressed wings on the 2 sides. Next. So this would be an enlargement of one of those. Next. These are the suppressed ones on the sides. Next. Okay, so for the roof plan, which is, as Cass had mentioned earlier, we've cleared out all the mechanical equipment off of the that 7th floor roof, and we've reduced the quantity of it because we've taken space within the building to house the things that don't have to be outdoors. So that's been limited to a much smaller number of cooling towers and such, which are on the proposed, which is the lower plan, which we have photographs of the mock-up as well as views that we did using Revit. So we'll be seeing both of those. Next. So this is a section, and as Cass described, that the primary view across the graveyard from on the Trinity Place side, that we have this quite over 11-foot tall parapet here. So we've pushed the cooling tower as far westerly as possible, which basically, as you'll see from the photographs, conceals that from that primary view, the Trinity Place view. It also puts it more centrally on the site, so it also gets cut off substantially from the Greenwich and from the westerly side. Next.
So we've built a mock-up, and what these images show, this is the view of the building with the existing mock-up, and in consultation with Landmarks, we explained to them that it was not possible to build the mock-up of the addition on the 7th floor roof because you'd never see it given the density of the mechanical equipment that's there today. So we built the mock-up of the cooling tower on the uppermost roof, and then what we've done is we've rendered that in yellow just so you can see it. We'll render these in sort of the natural tones. This is just going to be a dull gray paint around the enclosure, around the cooling equipment, and then this will be the limestone clad addition on the 7th floor. So the question I think, Jason, you asked is whether or not this was visible. There are some views on Albany and Carlisle Street where there are these momentary views, but I think what you'll see in all of this is, we are greatly reducing the visibility of mechanical equipment and other really non-contributing features up on the roof, and providing visibility of a nicely detailed limestone clad enclosure, and then just a single mechanical installation on that upper roof. So this is the first view was close in on Carlisle Street. This is now all the way out at the West Side Highway. So again, this is the existing view with the mock-up, which you cannot see from this point. And then the rendered view just showing you the sliver of the penthouse, the one-story pavilion on the 7th floor roof that would be visible in this view. You have, as I said, there are these momentary views along Carlisle and Albany. On Albany, as you move to the north, this is from this sort of plaza area. Again, this is the existing view. There are cooling towers right here up at the parapet. And then this is the mock-up that we've constructed here. So there will be some visibility from this view of the cooling tower and an adjacent mechanical unit, and then just the slightest view of the one-story setback addition.
And just to be clear, these are
Further down.
mock-ups that are computer generated currently, correct? Not
No,
actually in the
No,
field.
if you go back
No,
on
this
on
is
the
a
left-
mock-up.
Yeah.
I
So if you
can
look
zoom
all
in
the
on
way
this. So
yeah, all the way at the top.
I got it.
Yeah, you got it? Okay, great.
Yeah, so we've constructed a mock-up. I'll show you photos. It's in the appendix. We've constructed a mock-up for the portion that you could actually see, but because there's so much equipment on the existing roof, all of that equipment would mask the mock-up that we built inboard of that. So Landmarks agreed that it didn't make sense to build anything on the 7th floor because there's so much in the way already. So this is sort of a hybrid of a rendered view based on this mock-up for the upper roof, and then a computer model based on just what we know of the sightlines from the Revit model of what you'd see based on that model. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it's an unusual circumstance where there's that much mechanical equipment on a roof that it obscures what we'll be building, which is inboard of all that equipment. This is a view looking down Albany Street with really just the slightest bit of visibility of that setback portion of the addition on the 7th floor. Now, again, in this open plaza at Albany Street, again, here's the mock-up. We've rendered that in yellow. It will be a matte gray, and then the limestone clad penthouse. And again, you can see the degree of equipment that's visible in the current scheme. And then, so all the views from the northwest are these sort of non-historic views where they're big open spaces. We took a photograph from up here just for full disclosure from Liberty Park. This is about 25 or 35 feet above the sidewalk level. So here is the existing building. You can see the mock-up here and the cooling equipment and other mechanicals. There will be visibility of the limestone pavilion here, which I think actually will be sort of a nice enhancement to the building, the relationship between these arched openings to the monumental windows of the trading floor, and then just a slight view of the cooling tower on the upper roof. And then finally, I'll just leave it at this slide. So now we're on the east side of the building. Now we're looking across the churchyard at Trinity Church. And as we said, the way the mechanicals have been planned for this project, we have made a major point of making sure that there was no visibility from this side of the building, which is really the front of the building now following that 1930s addition. So whether you're standing on Broadway directly across the street from the building, all the way down Pine Street, as this shot is taken, or all the way to the south, looking northwest, there is no visibility of that mock-up. So the mock-up is in place, and it will be there through the public hearing in a few weeks. And with that, we'll be happy to take other questions.
Okay, so I'll say thanks to you guys. Great presentation, keeping it short. And I think it would be nice if we had more projects like this where, you guys strike the right balance between taking a little bit of floor area, doing it, sensitive to the elevations and views of the building, and in exchange, bringing this building to, first class condition outside in the existing. What a great, overall restoration program. Of course, much of it is not really for us to decide. It's a lot of staff level stuff, but big building, nice big property, vacant for a long time. So I am fully in favor of every part of this presentation. Next.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Currently the property's been being gutted. from the interior? Who's been doing that work if 123 is acquiring this tomorrow?
So within the PSA, and this is Jared from GH123, the property, we signed a PSA in January of this year with an extension on our close date. The work that's been going on at the moment is being undertaken by a combination of Clarion and Alan Freed, which were the previous owners, or I guess still current owners, until 2 o'clock tomorrow. And as part of the condition of the PSA, the demolition credit was given to us. Not to get into my financial detail behind it, but effectively we'd agreed with an extended close that that scope of work would be undertaken.
Okay.
So we,
I walk by this building every day actually, and it is nice to see work being done. I guess so on the Greenwich Street side, the ground floor windows that are boarded up currently, am I understanding that the original windows are under that plywood, or have they been all removed at this point?
Yeah, the original windows are not there. They're aluminum and glass.
Okay, so the plywood is just protecting whatever happens to be there in at the moment from
Yeah, I
vandalism.
think probably when there was a civil unrest earlier in the year, people boarded up everything and they never unboarded it.
We're going to focus on the historic stuff here, and I know it's late, but it has been disconcerting to walk by there and see. I would assume that there's asbestos in this building given the age of it, and to see dump trucks outside with things being brought out from the inside. The dump trucks are being washed down. It's going straight into the sewer. There doesn't seem to be any sort of precautions being taken for cleaning this place up right now, and I'm just concerned moving forward that it's going to continue to be that way. But going back to the historic stuff, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the roof looks wonderful that you're cleaning this up. The canopies, I'm not really impressed with the canopies at this point. The facades on both sides read very well as a 1920s and 1930s planar facades. And the canopies just seem like they do something that that feels more uptown than it does downtown, personally.
yeah, common commercial of today's age. It'd be nice to see something more historically appropriate.
Well, I just don't even think they need canopies. I understand that turning it into restaurants, event spaces, etc. But I just don't think the canopies are necessary. The openings are fairly deep.
Come on. Can you talk to us about this?
Yeah, I mean, just
you want to respond?
Yeah, I would be happy to. Why don't we go to the other canopy on Trinity?
And the lighting, please, which is
Yeah. So the
is better. Yeah.
Right. So the purpose of the canopy is functional, so that if it's raining and you're waiting for a cab, this is not a marquee. Maybe the perspective exaggerates it. It's sticking out 5 feet from the building, as would any other canvas canopy. So it's a functional thing. I suppose if that was a big objection, you could not have it. It also for a public building to make it clear where the entrance is. Where there's multiple entrances on the facade, it's a way that you know which way to go in. So I think that in terms of the lighting, this is a deco styled facade over here, so that the channel glass and with the nickel silver cups in the top and the bottom were chosen as being compatible with that aesthetic. And maybe our rendering isn't perfect, but the idea is that fixture underneath would have the same character. It wouldn't be something you're buying off the shelf. It would be custom designed. And it's basically a piece of FF&E.
I think the rendering
Yeah, and I
actually is
think
nice. It's just that the canopy, I'm going to, now forgive me, the numbers,
This
I
is the
have page number 19, which is the American Stock Exchange existing and proposed elevations. And I believe you have additional, something's off between what we received at the board in terms of the page numberings and what you have. So that is the rendering, the elevations that I'm looking at. So I just think architecturally speaking, the center opening already is speaking to, this is the main opening. I don't think it needs the canopy to do that. I think
yeah, and I think
Gunnar
this is
Asplund back in, I'm thinking back, Gunnar Asplund did a farmhouse where there was just a very slight difference between the main entrance and what at that time was a servant's entrance or a back door, if you will, just by doing one step. And I see this as enough.
Yeah, and I think, hey, this is Jared here. I think to the extent that the board doesn't find that vernacular sort of consistent with what should be there, we've gone to great lengths on the interior of the building to ensure that we don't have, queuing on the outside of the building. It's important to us to be, good stewards of the neighborhood. So that canopy is absolutely something we'd be okay with walking away from. It does not hold anything near and dear to the ownership group.
I'm also talking about the canopies on the other side. I don't think they're necessary either.
No, I agree completely. I think that's something we can absolutely look to do away with.
Vicky, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take the floor from you. Do you want to go back to the lighting?
Right, no, this is not a canopy, this is a marquee. Canopies touch the ground, marquees suspend from the building. So if you're doing a marquee, I know this for a fact. And so if you are gonna keep it, then I think, historically, to go along with this facade, it should be a much more majestic piece of architecture that you add to this. And I think it would be lovely. This is an extraordinarily beautiful building. The lighting, I mean, you buy something like this, it costs money, you have to go grand or don't go at all. I don't want to lose another amazing historical building to financial constraints because this is just too important. So it's not for us to design, but the canopy as you have it now is too commercial, too impoverished. A canopy, marquee. So either, we can discuss it here with our fellow members, but you either go all out, something as fancy as Waldorf Astoria the way it used to be, or as Gerald proposes, we don't need a small intervention. I'd like lighting to be equally important and grand, and if you're going to do something that's part of FF&E, then show it to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
Vicky,
my
appreciate that.
boss. Yeah.
Paul, just give me 2 seconds there. I think, appreciate that feedback, Vicky, and, to be fair and as blunt as humanly possible here, this is not a value engineering exercise by any stretch of the imagination, between acquisition and rehabilitation of the building. This is something that, my shareholder is very keen on making sure we do correct. He's not a short-term owner. This property will live in his family for years and years and generations to come. So allow us the opportunity and Paul to go back and give you a few options to present to this board and see what does speak to the vernacular. And I think we can make something better than what the Waldorf has done.
Thank you.
I would just, Jared's being very generous. I think we would like your commentary and a resolution tonight, whether you are supportive of the canopies or not. We might come back later, but we do definitely want a resolution out of you this evening, one way or the other, so that we can proceed to the public hearing next month.
Yeah, I would just suggest, let's just take the canopy, we withdraw the canopy, okay? And if we're gonna do a canopy, we're gonna come back and do a separate presentation on that.
But I just want to be clear, it's canopies. There's 2 facades.
Yeah, two canopies, yeah.
I think it's 3, but okay.
There are 3.
Susan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think
No canopies. I agree with Gerald. No canopies at all.
Marquee.
They have no.
Yeah. So Kaz, and purely my decision here, I think we need to, withdraw that. If we decide we want to come back with a canopy, then, let's come back to the board and present something that will blow their socks off. Otherwise, we stick with no canopies. Not the end of the world.
Yes.
Great.
Anything, Jason spoke. Anyone else? Vera?
No, I just agree about the canopy. Please leave that off. That would be great. Thank you.
Are you doing a proposal on signage anywhere and lighting anywhere else? These are small, I can't see.
Yeah, we have one sign on each side, which is we think we have an enlargement that shows the
Yeah,
size of the
sorry.
sign.
Let me
It's not
find
very
that.
large. Yeah, it's you
Here
went
we go.
by it
It's just
twice.
a plaque sign, a couple plaque signs.
That are getting bolted into the existing stone?
Well, not into the masonry. It's going into the mortar joints.
That's nice. Thank you.
Yes.
And is this building already landmarked? I don't recall if you said that or not.
Of course. Yeah, it's an individual landmark.
Yeah, that's okay. I thought so.
No, it's a city treasure.
So looking from the Carlisle side to the door on 123 Greenwich, there's an existing and a proposed. I have it on page 51.
You look at the ground floor rendered elevation.
Well, no, it's just a street
view.
A street view, yeah. Looking down Carlisle towards where 123 the door is. Again, I have it on 51, but I don't. There we go. Well, that'll work. No, that's not as good as the other one. Sorry. My question is with the
this is the closest view we have sort of at the base of the building.
Okay. So I have a picture looking down Carlisle. You can actually see Washington Street sign in it. And the only reason I bring this up is because in the rendered views, the glass looks like it's transparent and you can actually see into the interior space.
Right.
So my question is, what is currently there and what's being proposed with?
What is this? This looks
You're
black.
talking about up at the monumental windows or at the ground floor?
Yes, correct. Yes, at the monumental windows.
The monumental windows are intended to be clear. The current ones are very dirty.
It's just dirty? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'll be wonderful to be able to see the interior. Yeah.
Yeah. And the ceiling, there's a coffered ceiling, all that is going to be restored. It's this giant volume, the trading, the heart of the building, the trading space, and that's going to be obviously preserved and animated.
And
wonderful.
Roof, it's all black, rendered black. Is that also, it looks like casement windows, or what are you doing up top? You show it, yeah, there. It's all black.
Right. So right now there are a lot of missing windows and non-historic windows. This is actually going to be a mechanical. This is sort of a transition space right now with trusses that support the roof or the ceiling of the trading room. This is all going to be a mechanical floor. And as Paul said, this is what allows us to keep a lot of the mechanical equipment off of the roof because it's going to be moved inside. So at this elevation, there will be a mechanical floor with louvers in those openings.
Oh, it's all louvers.
Just at that elevation.
Yes.
And you have garbage and noise and all that thought about? Deliveries, hauling stuff away. You're not putting that anywhere in front of our building, are you?
Vicky, we're in landmarks.
Yeah, but I'm the co-chair, so I get to ask.
I know.
I would like to know where the garbage goes.
It's interior refrigerated garbage. We have a room separated on the Greenwich level, right inside the service entrance. So it'll be stored inside and brought out upon pickup.
Right, because you have this most magnificent building. All right. Anyone else in our committee? Jason, are we?
Once the building is built with this addition, is it close to being built full, or is there a lot of available FAR? Is it overbuilt already?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be additional FAR left on the table. You know, we're just not using it.
Okay.
Jason, we can go ahead and.
Yeah, so we're gonna write a favorable resolution, and so
Caveat that we want, right? Like a
well,
review.
they're removing the canopy, so that's off the table. Did we really have many other substantive comments here that I missed something big? We know there's no, we're not asking them to reduce the visibility. After that, we go to the storefront infill, which I think we generally liked. And then I think a whole bunch of stuff is staff level, so there's nothing to say about it. Signage we thought was, I mean, certainly not a robust signage. Are you keeping the American Stock Exchange signage?
100%.
Okay, so all the existing signage that's not like non-original or stupid, it is staying. So that's a good thing.
Everything is being fully restored. There's no intent for that whatsoever.
Okay. And it sounds like we could write in there that we appreciate that you're doing some serious restoration on the inside of the building, even though it's technically not, you know, you're not doing that to follow any law because it's not an interior landmark, right?
Exactly, but that's the reason why they're acquiring the building is because.
Yeah, you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart.
No, it's going to make a terrific dining experience. So don't
That's
get
cool. Okay, so
I
I'll call
think
it
speaking on behalf of the ownership group, you know, this building being closed since 2008 and being able to reopen it to the public and the work and restoration that's going to be done is going to make it, if not the most beautiful space, one of the most beautiful spaces in Manhattan. So it's something, you know, we're very, very excited about, which is why we feel, you know, the use on the ground floor of being a food and beverage, you know, hall at a refined experience is going to be fantastic for the community.
Well, you sound like a young man, so you may not know it's actually customary when a new establishment like this opens, we get to sample from each restaurant just to weigh in. Okay, so
I mean,
I'm
I don't
going
know
to
how you
call
can
it the
tell from the phone that
question.
I'm a young man, but I'd absolutely love to have dinner with you when we open it up.
Okay, let's call it the question. Is anyone seconding that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so let's vote.
Okay.
I'm a yes.
Okay. Yes, Vicky.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's somebody in the attendees that has hands up.
Oh,
Do
yes,
we need
if someone wants to say something, yes, we do need to ask that, sorry.
Yeah. Tyler?
Oh, Tyler Rump is he's from One Hanover. He has a request that would, after this presentation is done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did I get Susan? Susan?
Yes.
Okay. Susan, Bruce. Gerald?
Yes.
Okay, Liz?
Yes.
Okay, Megan is not here. Vera?
Yes.
Okay. Chow is not here. And Rogers is not here as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Okay. I have the votes counted in and the motion passes.
Perfect.
Okay, good work, guys.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. We're
who's
looking
the
forward to
next?
this.
We're going to talk about the guy, Tyler. Give me Tyler's question so we can answer him, get him going.
Are you done with us now?
Yes,
For
thanks,
123
Cass.
Greenwich?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
Yep,
for that,
very good.
guys.
Thank you very
Yep,
much.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
support.
thank you very much for the time. I appreciate you guys staying on.
Oh, good luck. Thank you.
Tyler, you can unmute yourself.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. This is Tyler Rump with S9 Architecture, a colleague of Dryden who just presented for One Hanover earlier this evening. I just wanted to make an important clarification that we're heading to LPC public hearing on November 9th, and that we do need to receive a resolution ahead of that in order to continue moving forward with our application. We've met with Landmarks twice already, and they brought up some of the same issues that you guys have brought up today, so we just wanted to make sure we could get a resolution on that and move this forward.
Are we being asked to write a resolution prior to the full board? I mean, are they going to the LPC prior to the full board?
I think your full board would be end of October, correct? The next full board
Yes.
meeting. So we're aiming for November 9th LPC public hearing.
Okay,
So
so
we need a resolution by the end of October.
Right, and this is
To come
this
back,
is India
Jason.
House.
No, they agreed to
Yes, they
tour,
were.
but now they're coming back.
Jason, do you remember we thought they would come back since it was, but they clearly don't want to come back. They
I
want
thought that
us
was
to.
Church Street. I'm sorry. So then, yeah, we'll write a resolution.
Okay, great.
I apologize. This is Grant. I apologize for that confusion. And thank you for your understanding.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much.
Hey, I just want to say, Dryden, I meant to say that was an incredible presentation, by the way. All the before and afters were wonderful from a PDF standpoint. You could flip between the two and see exactly what you were proposing. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for your understanding.
Yes.
Just remember that there are a lot of negative things on India House. Okay.
Don't worry.
Correct.
Yeah.
Still
We
a good
will-
presentation.
Yeah. We
Okay.
understand and we
Very
will
nice,
take
Gerald.
it into
No, it
consideration.
was, but nevertheless, there are things we do not want. And we want-
Nevertheless, we hate it to pieces.
We understand. We'll take that under advisement for sure.
Wait a second, before you go, I just want to say to Vicky Cameron, if you went to LPC and they had comments, why haven't you incorporated those comments into your presentation and have shown us that you are making adjustments based on their requests?
We just got their comments a few days ago, and some of the stuff still had to be reviewed at staff level. So it's a working back and forth relationship currently.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, they always like to try to move it along here.
Yeah, well, no, this time, this is too important, just like this other building, but Jason, take it away. Are we going, what else is left?
Jason, I see someone's hand raised. Detta Al, if you want
Hey,
to.
let's have them speak.
We welcome everyone here.
Hi, Detta.
Hi, I had my hand up. I wanted to speak. I put it up during the canopy discussion and now it's sort of a moot point.
No, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say that as a pedestrian, I really consider canopies to be a wonderful amenity, whether I'm entering or leaving a building or whether I'm just walking by. Inclement weather can happen, and it's really a terrible experience when there's absolutely no shelter. So I consider canopies to be a real amenity that makes a more positive pedestrian experience. And I understand there were objections based on the aesthetics, but I devalue really the function of them. So I had wanted to say that. So thank you.
Thank you. Jason, when you're
You
here-
too. If that's what you were waiting for me to say.
Oh, I want to be clear that we use appropriate and correct terminology. What they have is called a marquee. It's suspended from a building and it only overhangs the sidewalk. A canopy actually touches the street, okay? And that is a DOT issue. So let's use the right language. When it's suspended, it's a marquee. Please.
I shall.
I'm happy to use, I was following the language that I had been hearing. I'm happy to use Vicky's corrected language.
No, not for you, Detta. This is when we're writing resolutions, we should use correct terminology.
In that case, we're not even going to write about it because they've agreed to remove it. And so we can just going to strike it completely.
Well, either
But
that
next
or
time.
Jason,
make it grander.
being as we say in the old country, sospechoso as I am.
Oh, you say no canopy, period.
That's exactly right.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
make sure
I
it's
mean,
in
I'm
there.
sorry, no marquee, no marquee. And in that case, we have to say the word marquee.
Keep it in
Okay,
there.
understood. Okay,
At this point notwithstanding.
okay. So we have budget and we have equity issues. What do we got to do here? Can we
Could we postpone equity till the next time?
I think we can. I know Bruce wanted to be here for that, actually, so that's important.
Yeah, we can table the last item to November's agenda. I think honestly, the item regarding the budget request response was really just a debrief on the budget request that we had talked about last month, which
Yeah.
we have in place. So at that point, it's more like the office internal work with staff to kind of just enter the request into the query that we have in place already. And then what we do from there on is just working with Lucian to see the requests that have been entered on behalf of the committee for all committees. And then I believe what's going to happen next is that at next week's, is it next week, the executive meeting, the executive committee will review the requests that have been input so far and discuss that, have a discussion.
For that, so let's close the meeting.
Yeah, so we can say goodnight?
Yes.
Yes, Jason, you can adjourn the meeting.
Okay, meeting
I
is
second that.
adjourned. Okay, thank
Good
you
night,
guys.
Gracie.
Good night, all.
Okay, thanks.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.